and the golden voice of Neil Rule. Sit back and relax. It's time for your daily dose of Big D energy.
Good afternoon, Woodward. How are we? It is Lukas Klotz, and joining to my right is Sean Baligian. No Neil Rule or Darren McCarthy today, but we still have a packed show for you guys. As always, Spencer Ratcher, Sam Flannel. But I want to kind of hop right into something, Sean.
Let's go.
D-Hop. He's now in Tennessee. How are we feeling about that?
You know, I don't know what to feel about it, because I think that is a team that perhaps their window closed. I mean, honestly, perhaps their window closed, and good for him. I still think he's a tremendous wide receiver. I was one of those guys, would I have liked to have seen him in a Lion uniform? Well, of course I would. I mean, I always laugh when people, he doesn't fit here. Shut up. He's still one of the best wide receivers.
Hopkins.
Like, stop it. He's still one of the best wide receivers in the league. But at the price, no. I think the Lions have a good mix. If a guy was willing to come here and just be part of the crew, that's one thing. But I don't know. I mean, does it move the lever real far when you think about what he brings to Tennessee and making Tennessee that much more dangerous? I say no.
No, and the thing is with Tennessee, they could add whatever weapon they wanted. They still have Ryan Tannehill throwing the ball, and even more significantly, they have Trevor Lawrence and Doug Peterson in their division.
You got it.
So the fact that DeAndre Hopkins, as a football fan, this just hurts my heart. I mean, I would have rather seen him go to New England, for Pete's sake, just because you have the coaching of Bill Belichick, and you have what could be, even though it's not much, I trust what could be of Mac Jones over Ryan Tannehill every day of the week. Now, I'm still on the train of I wanted DeAndre Hopkins in Detroit. I knew it was not going to happen, but he's exactly what the Lions needed as far as a true X-wide receiver. And let's be honest, with Ben Johnson, DeAndre Hopkins would have been going crazy in Detroit. But Tennessee, it just hurts my heart. Spenny Flannel, what do you guys think about D-Hop in Tennessee?
Yeah, it kind of sucks. I mean, obviously I wanted him here too. I wanted him in Detroit. He would have been a great player to add to this team. But, you know, like you said, Tennessee, they've got a tough division, man. They got the Houston Texans in that division too.
Yeah, your team.
Watch out for the Texans.
I don't want to hear about the Texans.
Watch out for the Texans this year, baby. Worst to first. But it's a money grab, and it's like that whole list he had of, like, great coaching. I mean, they got Vrabel's a great coach. So
Vrabel's
they got a team ready to fight for a Super Bowl? No. A team with a great defense? No. A team with a quarterback who's good and loves football?
Absolutely not.
I'm sure he loves football, but he's not too great. So it's like that whole thing was a fucking lie. But I don't know what to make of it, man. It's just another star receiver going to Tennessee to end his career.
Yeah, that is true, because what they've had Julio recently,
yeah, Randy Moss. There's another Andre Johnson.
Andre Johnson.
You know what? To me, you know what the difference is, though. I mean, I think D-Hop is still a guy. I don't want to say that he's at the top of his game, but I would still include him in a conversation of best wide receivers in the National Football League.
I went at it last week on the morning show with Jeff. I think right now I would take DeAndre Hopkins over Cooper Kupp, just because Cooper Kupp's coming off a major knee injury, and if we see DeAndre Hopkins for 5, 6, 7 years in LA, I think there's a completely different narrative around him. And he's already been a first-team All-Pro when he has a quarterback. We saw him in Carolina with the Cardinals with Kyler Murray. He showed that he is still a top 5 wide receiver. Yes, I understand he had the PED issues, but are we really going to act like that takes away from his talent, especially after he led the NFL in receiving over the second half of the season? Flannel, what do you think?
DeAndre Hopkins in Tennessee, that is kind of an eyesore for me, because besides for Derrick Henry, there is nothing even remotely exciting about the Tennessee Titans offense. I mean, are we really getting up for Ryan Tannehill, or God forbid the possibility of Malik Willis or Will Levis? Right. I mean, at some point, if that is the case, I think DeAndre Hopkins is not going to be very, very happy catching passes from those two. And yeah, like you guys, I was in the camp of make a push for DeAndre Hopkins if you're the Lions. I mean, the reality of the situation is last season he played 9 games and had over 700 receiving yards. And I always say my favorite accomplishment of DeAndre Hopkins, I know this is a while ago, but in 2017 he was first-team All-Pro, and the quarterback who was started the majority of their games was Tom Savage. Yep. And DeAndre Hopkins has not fallen off that much since then.
No, I agree with you, Flannel. Look, if you're asking me, is he even top 3? No. Mm-hmm. No, I still think Jefferson's the best in the league right now. Jamar Chase, right behind him. So he's not there. But let's also be honest. This isn't like you brought him up. Julio Jones was done.
Yeah.
I mean,
he was cooked.
He was done. This is a guy that can still bring it and still, I think, help any quarterback, even Tannehill. I think. Maybe, probably. But no, it's like, all jokes aside, you brought up something that this is near and dear to my heart. And I know we're going to talk about Jared Goff in a minute, but I got to jump on this. The thing that I love about Ben Johnson, it go back about a decade, right? We had the next great offensive coordinator here with the genes of Lombardi, right?
Oh,
and no, but seriously, think about it. He was the next great coordinator, and oh my gosh, now he's got the opportunity. To me, Ben Johnson is like the anti-Lombardi, and here's why. He puts guys in positions to succeed. Mm-hmm. He doesn't say, Lucas, I know you're not the biggest baseball guy, so we're going to have you talk baseball because that's in my playbook. He puts guys in positions to succeed. That was always my problem with Matthew Stafford in Lombardi's system. He was constantly trying to pound that square peg into the round hole. and you know why Jared Goff worked? And I'm going to have my comeuppance later on in the show because I know a lot of you remember. I hammered Goff. Absolutely, positively hammered Goff. And you know what? He deserved it. He was a turnover machine at the end of his career in L.A. He was a turnover machine when he first came to Detroit. But you know what makes a good coach? You put a player in positions to succeed. You play to his strengths. You make him comfortable. And 100%. Lo and behold, what happens when you put a guy in a position like that? Jared Goff is a heck of a quarterback. And it had nothing to do with hater. It had nothing, people, why are you being a hater? Facts. That's it. It's not me hating. I mean, look at the numbers. So you got to come correct. And that's what I like about Ben Johnson. And I expect Ben Johnson to do the same thing with whatever talent he brings in here, whether it be D-Hop, whether it be J-Mo, whatever the case may be. That's what I'm looking at. And that's what has me excited about the Lions this year is we have a guy that is playing to what he has as opposed
and
to
more.
Making what he has fit into his system.
You could argue, I mean, look how well he played this season. Now he's got even more, especially on the defensive side. People take for granted how much a defense helps out a quarterback. And you look at those days when Jared Goff was balling out for the Rams, they had a great defense, specifically a great secondary in LA, to go with Aaron Donald. And now they're bringing in that same type of thing, and they added that secondary. Not only is Jared Goff, I don't even know if he'll put up the same statistics that he did last year because he's not going to have to. Jared Goff is going to play even more efficient this year, and that's the thing with Jared Goff. He's never going to play hero ball. And with Ben Johnson, I think, like you said, Jared Goff is not going to be in Detroit forever. I think he could be here for a couple more years, but I truly see the day where Hendon Hooker is starting for the Detroit Lions, and when he gets this year behind Ben Johnson to learn behind Jared Goff, who's then going to teach him what Jared Goff's going to teach Hendon Hooker what Ben Johnson has taught him, and it's all just going to marinate into Hendon Hooker, and it's just going to carry over. And this team is going to be something for a long time, I think.
I think people forget how good Hendon Hooker was last year. I'm fortunate. I've been a Heisman Trophy voter for a long time now, and I'll tell you what, before the injury happened, there were a lot of people like me that would have been my pick. Period. End of story. It would have been my pick.
He was a first-round quarterback until that, and you could argue a top 10 pick. For a guy like me personally, when you see somebody who, yes, he obviously, Tennessee was a system, but when you can see a guy who has talent and is not going to let that talent overwrite the system and he'll just fit his role, that's icing on the cake for me. That's true maturity, and that's the thing that we don't see out of the Dak Prescott, Kirk Cousins, Kyler Murrays. They don't have that ability to hone down their talent and realize we don't need this talent for the system to work. We just need me to be me. And even if that takes not throwing a touchdown this game and handing it off to Jamal Williams and letting him get 2 rushing touchdowns, that's what it all comes down to at the quarterback position. What do you think, Spenny?
I mean, yeah, you guys know how I feel about Jared Goff. I'm with Sean in that camp, and I don't think, he had a great year last year. That's what you can say to him. Eventually, Hooker is going to get a chance to get the reins. That's why you draft him. You don't draft a quarterback in the 3rd round to just let him sit there and die. So he's obviously very talented. He's got a year. They're red-shirting him, basically. So, yeah, the man was the Heisman front runner until he got injured. He was running away with it. And, he arguably could have been a top 10 pick if he never would have got hurt. So we'll see what happens when he does get his chance. But right now, it's the Jared Goff show.
Flannel.
Why are you guys such Jared Goff haters? Even having the audacity to bring up Hendon Hooker, right?
It was the H word.
It was a wasted pick. No, I'm kidding. We'll see. I mean, if Jared Goff comes out this next year and validates everything from this past year, who knows? Maybe the Lions are going to want to extend him and give him a long-term deal. Is that something that I'm necessarily in favor of right now? Not necessarily, but if he actually builds on those numbers and maybe the Lions win at least a playoff game, who knows? But yeah, Hendon Hooker. In Tennessee, I always say this, one of my favorite stats I ever heard in college football, especially when the Lions drafted him. In his last 2 seasons at Tennessee, I believe it was only 2 seasons at Tennessee, Hendon Hooker threw a combined 58 touchdown passes and 5 interceptions, including absolutely torching an Alabama defense led by Will Anderson and Brian Branch. I know Lions fans really like Brian Branch and are happy the Lions picked him. So Hendon Hooker, at some point, I think he is a starting quarterback in the NFL and definitely has a higher upside than Jared Goff, in my opinion.
You know, this is funny because, and I know you were joking about it, but I saw a comment from Cody. He said, Goff will never validate enough for the haters, and this is the word true. Haters makes me laugh.
Well, there are some true Jared Goff haters out there because they want him to be Patrick Mahomes, and he's not, and he knows that
1,000%. But what I'm saying is, I was categorized as a hater a couple of years ago, and I would always say, what am I saying that isn't false? Mm-hmm. This is a guy that turned the ball over, whether it be interceptions or fumbles, a ton. There's a reason why McVay wanted to move on from him. There's a reason why he struggled in his first year with the Lions. Those are factual statements. And here's the thing with sports reporting, and quite frankly, I don't think enough of it is being done, and with fans as well. The flip side to that is, if the dude turns around and has the type of year that Jared Goff had, you best tip your cap.
100%.
You best tip it. And you know what? That's when people want it. They want to throw the anchor down, and they want to make that stand, and they want to say, oh, no, I wasn't wrong. No, you know what? I wasn't wrong because the guy was a turnover machine. Where I was wrong and openly admitted, I didn't think there was a next level for the guy. And there clearly was.
Do you
and Ben
think there
Johnson
could be
helped him
another
get
one
there.
Still?
I'm not sure.
Because we look...
Hey, let me tell you this. If we get that type of guy last year, if we get that type of guy that we had last year with what we all would assume when J-Mo comes back is a more expanded role for him, I'd be fine with that. Thank you. With the weapons he has around him now, just to me, don't kill the offense.
100%.
Don't fumble, as he had a fumble problem so often.
He didn't have an
in the
offensive
past.
line like this, though.
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. Don't hurt this offense. And that's where I'm at. I'm fine with Jared Goff. And like I said, 2 years ago, never thought those words would come out of my mouth. I'm fine with Jared Goff.
Yeah. I mean, I think totality-wise, as a whole, what do you think Jared Goff on this contract extension that he's probably going to be wanting or facing? Let's put it like this. If you were Brad Holmes, Jared Goff has a similar type of season he did this year, wins a playoff game, wins the division, but that's it. Doesn't win the divisional round. What are you offering Jared Goff when you know you have a guy, like you said, Hendon Hooker, Flannel pointed, 58 touchdowns, and he's not playing in the Big Ten. So those are C.J. Stroud numbers in the SEC.
I wouldn't listen. This is where I say to myself, and I wish Joik Bell was here because Joik, if you're watching, you're probably laughing. There's a window, and we talked about it earlier with Tennessee. There's a window, and I don't know, is Hendon Hooker ready to jump through that window next year? My guess is no. So you stay for that window, and if you can hold on to this guy and he is the best chance for you to win, then you roll with it. To me, don't overthink it. That's where we're at right now. Listen, we're up against a break. I think, what do we got? We got a read right now?
Yeah, we do. And the best chance for you to win when it comes to your fitness or the gym game is obviously Planet Fitness, because Planet Fitness is the home of the judgment-free zone where you can work out in a non-intimidating, judgment-free atmosphere. The gym that has always been known for being clean is now cleaner than ever. You can get a full-body workout in just 30 minutes in a 30-minute circuit, and all memberships include fitness training. You can get started for just $10 a month, or you can upgrade to the Black Card for $24.99. And of course, high school students ages of 14 to 19 can work out for free all summer long, thanks to the High School Summer Pass. And for more information or to join today, visit planetfitness.com, or you can go in and check it out for yourself. It's Planet Fitness, where your fitness is essential.
I'm Love Woodward Sports? Love wearing clothes? Then you should be wearing Woodward Sports clothes. Check out our full line of merch at woodwardsports.com. Just click on shop. We have all your favorite designs, like Dan Campbell kneecaps, Woodward Golf, and of course, our own logoed out merchandise. Men, women, infants, kids all love Woodward Sports. Impress your friends. Impress your boss. Impress your dog. Buy Woodward Sports merch today.
At work and at home, we're there with smarter security solutions. Featuring complete automation with customized alerts and more. For over 90 years, we've been the company that's been counted on to protect what matters most, all with personalized service and care. Right now, for a limited time, receive a free video device plus free installation with a new home system. Guardian Alarm. We protect Michigan.
Play, practice, and party at 5 Iron Golf. It is now open inside the Cambria Hotel. Downtown's newest sport bar has 13 TrackMan simulators, certified instructors, and a full bar and restaurant. Mention promo code Woodward at checkout for 50% off your first visit, and visit 5irongolf.com to tee up good times. That's 5irongolf.com.
Welcome back, Woodward Sports. It's Big D Energy. I am Lukas Klotz.
I got to yell at somebody.
Yell.
Sorry, I got to
get it out.
Somebody said, I forget who it was. Somebody said, stick by your argument that Goff was trash. Now, I want you to think about this for just a second, because you, my friend, I forget your name. You, my friend, are the perfect guy that I'm talking about. I am convinced today there are a lot of people that want to be told lies. Seriously.
They just want to stay in their reality.
Especially sports fans.
Yep.
Jared Goff was trash. I couldn't call him anything else.
We're not going to go to the trash.
No, he was
in his early
trash.
days in Detroit. Who did he have throw to?
This
Quintez Cephas?
This goes back to the Rams. When a guy is turning the ball over multiple times a game, dude, look up the numbers. I don't want him for my starting quarterback.
Here's the thing. The final days in LA, Jared Goff lost his confidence, and Sean McVay definitly did no part in helping that. He benched him and then expected him to go win a playoff game.
So thank you for proving my point. I don't know why you interrupted me to begin with. Thank you. I appreciate it.
This is what I'm saying, though. So he lost his confidence. So this is a quarterback with no confidence, and then he comes to a wasteland in Detroit.
So you got that all off your chest to agree with me. I'm so glad we got there.
Trash is disrespectful to Jared Goff.
Baker
Mayfield is trash.
When you're turning the ball over left and right, I don't want you as my starter. Do you want a guy like that?
If you're winning games, I don't care.
Yes,
if the way the Rams were going, there's quarterbacks like you go look at Matthew Stafford.
This, right?
The year the Rams won the Super Bowl with Matthew Stafford, who do you think threw the most interceptions in the league that year? It was Matthew Stafford. That's McVay's offense. You're going to take chances, and yes, Jared Goff declined in that offense, but it was not because of his skill. He lost confidence. That's all it was. It's not like the man woke up one day and my arm now sucks.
So what you're saying is he was a turnover machine.
You could say every quarterback in that offense is a turnover machine.
Okay, so then he came to Detroit and he was a turnover machine.
When you have that level of talent with Anthony Lynn and no defense, that's what's going to happen.
But Lucas, stop and listen to what you're saying right now. I'm trying to help you out here. Okay? God. I said he was a turnover machine. You're agreeing with me that he's a turnover machine.
You called him trash.
In two different. Well, actually, the guy did. The guy did. He said, stick with your argument that he would. Do you want a turnover machine as your quarterback?
I do not prefer one.
Okay,
no.
Cool. So now that we've got that established, okay, so that's the point. And he didn't even know it. He just played the part. Nobody wants that guy as your quarterback. Nobody wants that guy as your quarterback. And you know what? Here's the thing. If he stops turning the ball over and he starts winning football games, what am I supposed to say? Am I supposed to then go back and lie and say, oh, he's trash? He's a turnover? No, you give credit where it's due. Right?
I just think to call Jared Goff trash, any quarterback that played, even in LA, he was playing at a high level for numerous years. It's obviously something was going on. It wasn't a skill thing. So to call the man trash, I think at any point is just...
Actually, like I said...
I would call him below mid, especially the 3 and 3.
The guy did, but
no, I know,
just for the sake of an argument, I was using his term. I don't want that guy as my starting quarterback. Let's peel away all the layers. I don't want a turnover machine as my starting quarterback. And you know what? He stopped turning the ball over left and right, and he started winning football games. So at that point in time, you have to come correct. But let's go back to 3 years ago. Instead of arguing around it, let's go, hey, I don't care if he lost his confidence. I don't care if his offensive line sucked. I don't care if he was only good at 405 starts as opposed to 415 or 130. If a guy's turning the ball over, I don't want that guy. I don't know anybody else out there that would say, yeah, I'm really down with that guy. Or maybe just because he wears the Detroit Lion cap. So somebody, like I said, going back to the original point, stick with your original thought. Well, I can stick with my original thought because you know what? They put this guy in positions to succeed, and he's a pretty darn good quarterback now. I mean, he is. He's a pretty darn good quarterback. Do I put him top 10? I think he's arguably in that area.
That's fair.
Sure, I really do.
I mean, a huge reason for Jared Goff's development has been Penei Sewell, because when they brought him in, the line, we had nothing. And I think that was the first pick that really showed me that Brad Holmes was legitimate, because they could have went out and got a sexier pick, but they said, you know what? We suck right now. We're the Detroit Lions, and the way we keep drafting, if we keep doing what the same old Detroit Lions keep doing, we're not going anywhere. When they drafted Penei Sewell, it showed me, okay, this is going to be a slow rebuild, but this is a rebuild that is going to be worthwhile because they're building the right way. So with Penei Sewell, there's a lot of talk about Rashawn Slater, Andrew Thomas, a bunch of these young tackles. Do you think he's the best of these young tackles in the NFL right now?
Close, and I think that's
Tristan Wirfs.
That's good enough for me. I mean, that's what you want to see. You want to see the guys come out. You don't expect them to be the finished product right away, not in any way, shape, or form. But if they're in that conversation and you realize that there is still a ceiling there, like how could you be
Spenny
angry?
Just threw up the graphic. So PFF came out with this list.
How
and
could
they
you
had
be
Sewell
angry with that? And if you want to argue that you think he's maybe too high or maybe too low, we can have that conversation. But to me, especially when a guy is this young, to even be in the conversation is what you want to be. The fact that you can make that argument one way or another, to me, that's the beauty of this. He belongs in that conversation. Oh, by the way, there's still a ceiling there.
Yeah, he has not met his ceiling, and I don't think he's going to meet that for another 4 or 5 years, honestly, because he's the athlete that he is. He's just going to keep developing. But would you say right now, because we're going to have that discussion, if you think Penei Sewell's a top 3 tackle, because PFF obviously put out that graphic, would you say that PFF, and I want to hear from Flannel Spenny too, is Penei Sewell a top 3 tackle in the NFL right now? Not in 2-3 years, right now entering 2023. Spenny?
I'm not sure just yet. That's a tough list to be on the top of right now because there's so many good tackles in the NFL. You look at guys on that list already: Trent Williams, Lane Johnson, Laramie Tunsil. Like, you have a bunch of guys up there. He's definitely in the conversation. I'm more comfortable putting him in top 5 than I would be top 3, but he's trending upwards for sure.
Yeah, for me, I think this is the year that we could possibly see Penei jump into that number 3 spot. But I mean, just looking at, you have to put Trent Williams at number 1. The dude's an all-out animal, first ballot Hall of Famer. Same thing with Lane Johnson. And then even the year that Laramie Tunsil just had in Houston, he just got a bag, and it was for a reason. So I think it's a little too early, especially because a lot of those guys are in their prime. And even Lane Johnson, he's not in his prime, but he's having the prime that most linemen wish they could have right now in his age. So to put him above those guys, I'm not willing to do it just yet because Penei Sewell is going to get better. And to say that, yeah, he's going to get better, so he's top 3 right now, it's like, I don't think so just yet. Flannel?
He is definitely not top 3 at the moment. I think you're a little bit being a little bit of a homer if you say that he's top 3. What he is a top 3 at, I'd say, out of all tackles in the NFL, you can argue that he is a top 3 run blocker. But when you look at all of those players that were listed on that graphic, I would say that Penei Sewell, as of right now, is the worst pass blocker out of all of them. When you look at the PFF grade, when you look at the hits allowed, when you look at the pressures allowed, he only allowed 2 sacks last year, which is very, very good. But to your point, Lucas, I think it's more about what he could do. Would it shock me if in the next couple of years he passes Laramie Tunsil, Tristan Wirfs? Not necessarily. Obviously, Trent Williams and Lane Johnson are probably on the on the second
They're
half
on their
of their
way
careers.
out.
They're on their way out, but they still both were good enough to be all pros last year. So I don't know if they're done just yet. But as of right now, the good news is I already did my own ranking list. I have Penei Sewell as the number 7 tackle in the NFL.
Who'd you have in front of him?
I had Trent Williams, I had Lane Johnson, I had Laramie Tunzel, I had Christian Darrisaw, I had Andrew Thomas. I'm trying to think who I'm missing.
Tristan Darrisaw over him?
Yes.
What's the... And it's not saying that these guys are bad, but especially even the Andrew Thomas. What has Andrew Thomas and Christian Darrisaw done? And I'm asking this, Flannel. What have they done to say, I'm willing to say that this guy's better than Penei right now? Especially, they haven't been in the league as long as Penei.
It's the pass blocking. That's what it goes to for me. It's the pressures allowed, the hits allowed. And the reality of the situation is Andrew Thomas, he had a breakout year last year, but the year before he was very good. Christian Darrisaw was arguably one of the more undervalued offensive linemen in the NFL. I think at the absolute worst, they're right on par with each other. This idea that Penei Sewell is above them, like, definitively, I think is crazy. I think a lot of people in this chat, particularly this show in particular, are overvaluing Penei Sewell a little bit because Neil Rule is a brilliant propagandist. And he was ready to put Penei Sewell in the Hall of Fame after game 1, which I think is a little bit absurd. I think his trajectory he's more likely than not to be a multiple-time Pro Bowler, All-Pro, possibly Hall of Fame, but he hasn't hit even close to his ceiling yet. Once he does that, the sky's the limit. He just hasn't done enough yet for me to put him in top 3, top 5.
Spenny, I want to hear what you have to say about the Andrew Thomas, Christian Darrisaw, Penei Sewell conversation.
Yeah, I'm not ready to put those guys over Penei Sewell just yet. I think he brings more to the game than them. Although they're getting better as well, and they're all rapidly increasing, getting better as they get more years in the league. So we'll see, like, when they all hit their prime, what they're going to be at. But right now, I got Penei Sewell over them.
That's to me that's completely fair because you brought up prime, and to me it's about ceiling. Mm-hmm. If he's in that conversation right now, I'm totally cool with it. Like, and that's where I'm at. It's like, okay, and if if you want to say Tristan, okay, cool. I'm not going to argue too much with that because the fact that he's in that conversation is a great thing because, much like Goff, and I know everybody wants to talk about interceptions, guys, he was fumbling left and right. I mean, it was like 12 fumbles, 5 lost, 12 fumbles, 6 lost. Those are drive killers. Those hurt you. You know what you want to see? You want to see a guy go like this. And that's exactly it. To me, it's not just about interceptions. And by the way, since so many people, that trade had to happen, the Matthew Stafford trade. Mm-hmm. We all know that, right?
As far as...
It was time for Matthew Stafford to go.
I was ready for Stafford to go. I did not want the Lions to re-sign Stafford.
I saw a lot of people...
Don't get me going on Stafford.
Like, people comparing, like, Goff, and please don't misconstrue for me, it was time for Matthew Stafford to go, and that's what I love about Brad Holmes. Is Brad Holmes said, and people didn't want to hear it. His action screamed, "We are going to bite the bullet, and we are going to play the long game."
Yep,
that's brilliant because here we are. Did it suck in 2021? Absolutely. Did it suck at times last year in 2022? Absolutely. But when you look at those pieces that we have now, so this is not about like Matthew Stafford or Jared Goff. I thank God every day they made that deal. It's time to make that deal. But at the end of the day, when they brought a guy in here, I was terrified about him moving forward because of the interceptions, because of the fumbles. Now, I'm not at all. I'm not. Like, I'm cool with Jared Goff.
Yeah.
We did something the other day, Ryan and Maz and I, and we just, off the top of our heads, we did like a quarterback ranking. And we had Jared Goff like either 9 or 10 on all of our lists. How could you complain about a top 10 quarterback with all the pieces around you?
You can if they're winning games. If they're winning games, you can't complain.
I think they will.
Some people take it too far and call him top 5, and that's I got the place for you if you think Jared Goff's top 5 quarterback. That is SMA, or the Sports Marketing Agency, because the Sports Marketing Agency helps spread awareness about mental health and substance abuse. Their new podcast, This is the S Word, helps fight the stigma about seeking help. So if you or somebody you know is struggling, make sure you head to thesportsma.com and get the help you deserve.
We don't like to brag that we are the toughest sports network in Detroit, but we do have a guy named Darren McCarty on our side. Woodward Sports.
Big Boy Strawberry Fest has officially arrived, and we're here to show you the very best flavors of the season. Satisfy your sweet tooth with our deep-fried vanilla Oreos, strawberry hot fudge cake, and a slice of our classic strawberry pie. But that's not all. Cool off on a refreshing summer splash salad, or savor the flavors of our chicken Caesar wrap and strawberry bacon chicken wrap. And for breakfast lovers, don't miss out on our strawberry hotcakes or our mouth-watering red velvet waffle. Strawberry Fest is something for everyone. Celebrate the sweet season with us at Big Boy.
A ton of fun, a ton of sports, and a ton of man meat. Welcome to the Woodward Heavyweights, live daily 5 to 7 p.m. on Woodward Sports.
Welcome back, Woodward. It is Lukas Klotz. And to my right, Sean Baligian, no Neil Ruler, Darren McCarty today, but we are here on this Monday. It's a beautiful Monday. Make sure you drop a like in the stream if you have not already. You seen that video of Aleem McNeil?
Yes.
Looking a little slim. Aleem, the dream.
I like
Sven,
it.
if you want to pull it up. He lost some weight. Some people are concerned. And let me tell you, I don't know if I am, but here's the video.
He looks a lot smaller than he did last year.
But I agree with you. That he also has an extremely baggy shirt on right now. Looks like he got his dad's shirt out of his gym bag.
That's probably just his from last year.
No way. That would be like me putting on Easy's shirt.
I mean,
or yours.
The guy
way.
looks a lot smaller, man.
But is that something we can after this put it back? Is that, and I'm opening this up for the whole floor because I'm not worried about it. I think where the NFL is going, and I say this, and it applies to every position, even the offense and defensive linemen. The need to be more athletic is going to have to become an actual need from every position. The running backs are getting more athletic. The quarterbacks are getting more athletic. The tight ends are getting more athletic. Hell, the offensive tackles are now running 4.7, 4.8 times. As a defensive interior guy, yes, you have to have size, but now it is, in my opinion, where the NFL is going, it is going to require athleticism. You look at all the defensive tackles as they get older, they start taking care of their body and they start getting lighter. You look at Aaron Donald. He's lighter than he ever has been. He's been playing his best ball over the last couple of years. I understand it's concerning that Aleem McNeil lost weight, but it's not like this man is a small individual, especially when we're going to have Isaiah Buggs, Broderick Martin, John Kaminsky. Like, he's going to have some big boys around him.
Boy, I agree with you, Lucas. Well stated. No, I'm serious. Can I go to college football as an example?
Yeah. Take it. I'm opening the floor.
So often people talk, SEC, Big Ten. And we were delusional around here for a long time, okay? Even you, Buckeye fan. We were delusional around here.
Not a CJ Stroud
fan.
And
we would make arguments that we were just as good as the SEC, if not better, right? Mm-hmm. How many times did you hear a moron make a comment like that? And everybody had to drop it. And you know one thing that people always talk about, right? It was speed. Mm-hmm. Speed, SEC speed. Do you know what it was to me? It wasn't so much the wideouts. It was the lines. Mm-hmm. Watching Georgia's line just invoke its will.
Broderick Jones this year alone.
Watching Alabama's line invoke its will. Mm-hmm. To me, it was the big nasties up front. You get a guy like McNeil that, is a force of nature to begin with, but he's running around would-be blockers and using that athleticism. That's a good thing. And I think that has been one of the biggest differences between the SEC. Hell, Spencer, as a Spartan fan, okay? You know when Michigan State took the jump in the early teens and everything, and that unbelievable team in 2013? Look at their defensive lines. And that's not taking anything away from Langford, and that's not taking anything away from Connor Cook. But their defensive lines, how they put pressure on the opposition was insane. Those 2 years in a row against Michigan. Oh, yeah. Poor Devin Gardner. I mean, honestly. So to me, that's a good thing. And how somebody could make an issue out of this, I think you're just looking for something, quite frankly.
I think they're going to act like the mans get bullied around. I mean, Spence and Easy talked about it, I know. So, Spenny, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Yeah, I think it's better for him. He's obviously taking more of a pass rusher role than a run stopper role with this kind of body transformation. We saw in his best game as a Detroit Lion so far in his tenure was against the Giants last year, where he had 13 pressures in that game by himself. That's insane. 13 pressures on Daniel Jones by himself in that game. So he's got this pass rushing body, and like they drafted Broderick Martin for a reason. Like, that's going to be your run stuffer. That's going to be that big dude like in the longest yards, Tatowski, a coke machine with legs. Like, that's the big guy you put next
Vince
to him
Wilfork.
To stop the run. You got Buggs, a big guy you can put next to him, stop the run, and you let Aleem eat. So I'm excited for him.
And the other thing I think people are seriously overlooking with this is also going to keep Aleem McNeil much more healthier because his body's going to be more compact. Everything as far as on the joints, he's not going to have fat there. He's going to have muscle, and that is going to make him more twitchy and just keep him healthy, especially when we're talking about last year's a perfect example. Week 18 in Lambeau. You needed your best guys healthy, and this is going to help keep Aleem McNeil healthy for those games. But Flannel, are you worried about Aleem McNeil?
Not even in the slightest. I actually have Aleem McNeil as a breakout candidate on that defense for sure. The reality of the situation is Aleem McNeil over the first couple of years, he's been a solid player. He did have that one breakout game against the Giants, in which for one game he was definitely Chris Jones. But other than that, more of a rotational piece, I would say replacement level starter for the most part. I think losing all that weight, or at least losing all that body fat, it'll make him more agile against the run. It'll help him shed blocks quicker, help him get into gaps quicker, maybe even chase down a running back in the backfield, get some penetration. And in the interior pass rush, I think that Aleem McNeil, just having that extra agility, that extra speed, I think he could get 5 sacks this year. I really do. It wouldn't shock me at all. And if he becomes more, I would say, consistently very, very good and even at times dominant, it would do wonders for this entire defense. I mean, even guys like Aiden Hutchinson, James Houston, that interior pressure is so crucial. And the reality is, even last year, the Lions didn't have it. Aleem McNeil is working towards making that a part of his game, and that's a great thing.
You know, it's interesting. A couple of people, I want to read what Brandon said. There's no difference in straight line speed between top SEC and Big Ten players. SEC teams are much more powerful. I'll disagree in the trenches. Mm-hmm. And again, if you have that big dude where all things are considered equal, that's maybe a little leaner and more athletic and can roll around you, I've seen that difference forever in college football. And you know what? I think dudes are going to that, and you're seeing it in the NFL more. Those guys getting leaner and getting that half-second jump off the ball is all the difference in the world. And I think, to me, let's see if it plays out. To me, that's the situation with the guy like McNeil. It's like, if he's a half-second quicker off the snap, he's going to be that much more dangerous.
And the other thing I don't think people are taking into account is maybe this is what Aleem McNeil thinks he needed to have that Giants game consistently. And he can see, okay, they just brought in another D tackle with Broderick Martin. They re-signed Isaiah Buggs. Like, this is going to be the same team and a little bit more. They brought in Christian Covington, who was playing with the Chargers, who's a big body too. I don't know if he's going to make it come the 53-man cut. But Aleem McNeil was like, oh, shit, I might need to add a little step to my game. And this is his way of doing it. So with all these pieces, are you concerned about the run game, the run defense more specifically this year compared to last year? Because that was obviously, I mean, besides Dan Campbell's play calling early on in the season, it was the Achilles heel.
You know as well as I do that there are going to be people out there that are just automatically going to say no and go shiny, happy people and Mr. Blue Sky and everything's going to be okay. Mm-hmm. I think, to your point, that's a prove it. You have to prove it. As positive as I am about the Detroit Lions this year, and I really am. I think the Lions are going to win the North. I really, truly believe that, okay? I can't get some of those images from last year out of my head.
Deontay Foreman. And he's in Chicago now.
Christmas Eve, man. I mean, like, seriously,
a tough game.
Christmas Eve isn't that long ago, right? Mm-hmm. And I can't get that image out of my head. I think it needs to be burned out of the head, and the only way to do that, seriously, the only way to do it is to prove it. You know, that's going to be, I think, if we're being honest, that's going to be the big question heading into this year. Okay, I think it's going to be better, mm-hmm. but don't you have to prove it to alleviate some of those fears?
Mm-hmm. I'm half tempted. I want to say yes, because they kept the core pieces. Especially, I think John Kaminsky is such an underrated signing for this run defense. They brought in Jack Campbell, so I want to say yes. But I absolutely have to see it, just because
no question.
The core of this front seven, if we want to be honest, there's Aiden Hutchinson, and that honestly, that's 1A. 1B is going to be Jack Campbell, just because playing the middle linebacker spot with all the pressure that he has coming to be a first-round pick, going to be wearing the green dot, he's going to be calling the plays. I mean, honestly, they're expecting kind of like from all the hype, a Luke Kuechly type of leader out there. So if he can come 75% close to that, I'm not worried about it. But to your point, I need to see it first. Spenny?
Yeah, I agree. It's they had games where you saw the run defense actually impose its will. Like, they shut down Dalvin Cook in a game. They obviously shut down Saquon Barkley when they were playing the Giants. So there were flashes of what this defense could be when it comes to stopping the run. And I think adding guys like a Broderick Martin and like Jack Campbell will definitely help him get better. And you got to see it now. You got to see it more. And now they have the ability with some of the secondary pieces they added
100%.
to throw an extra guy in the box if they really have to, because you got guys out there. You're not worried about being on islands, because it's not Jeff Okudah out there anymore. It's Cam Sutton. You know, it's not as good of a player he was Deshaun Elliott out there anymore. It's Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. So you have the ability to flip some things around and put an extra guy in the box if you really need to.
Yeah, and I want to bring up a point, but first on Flannel, what do you have to say?
So here's the problem, and so we can't overlook the fact that even though the Lions last year, towards the end of the season, they were a lot better defensively, and they were, and like Spenny said, against Saquon Barkley, they completely shut him down. Like, he did nothing. That was one of his worst performances of the year.
They bust that ass.
They did bust that ass. I mean, led by Ali McNeil, who had the best game of his life, one of the best games any defensive tackle even had last year. But anyway, the reality is, when you look at the whole of the season, the defense was not good. I think it was fourth worst in points allowed, and I'm looking at it right now. They were actually fourth worst in rushing yards allowed. And in the draft, there was a certain defensive tackle that was available to take. And if the Lions don't come out and improve their run defense this year, there might be a little bit of rumblings about, maybe Jalen Carter was there. Maybe they didn't do enough. I'm just saying.
I got a question for all three. Were you a Jalen Carter fanatic for the Lions?
Absolutely love the idea.
If the Lions drafted Jalen Carter, would you be worried about the run defense this year?
Of course.
You still would?
Still, you have to prove it.
Spenny?
Regardless, you have to prove it.
Yeah, I wanted Jalen Carter really bad.
I know you wanted him, but you wanted him bad.
I like it, and I want you.
If they took him, would you be more or less concerned right now?
I'd be less concerned, but I'd still be concerned.
Okay. That's fair, Flannel.
Yeah, I would be 100% less concerned.
Okay.
I'm not saying that Jalen Carter is going to be the superstar, it's going to be a huge miss, or that Jahmyr Gibbs isn't going to be good. I'm just saying that when you have such a deficiency and you have one of the better defensive line prospects in years and you pass on him, my message to Brad Holmes and that entire defense is this better work. Because they can't have those implosions like even against Seattle, because people remember it as the Geno Smith game. Rashad Penny rushed all over them.
People forget about that.
And at Carolina, giving up the franchise record for rushing yards in a game to Chuba Hubbard and Deontay Foreman. That can't happen again. Do I think their rush defense is going to be better? Sure, but do I think it's going to be great or top half of the NFL? Personnel-wise, I would tend to say no.
Yeah, and the one other thing before we head to break is people forget about how big of a difference Tracy Walker makes in the run game. And Spenny brought that up of now that we can have a safety in the box really with the flexibility of the secondary at any time. Because Tracy Walker, I'm more comfortable having him on the field. And it's not that I have any disgrace to Alex Anzalone or Malcolm Rodriguez, but just what they can do, I'm more confident having Tracy Walker on the field, both in the run and pass game. So they're going to have him back for a full season. And then when he's not playing there, they got Kirby, and then they got CJ behind him. And so that is just going to impact the run game so much more. So I'm glad Spenny kind of brought that up. But
you know what? I want to piggyback on that when we come back, because I think that's a good point. And you know what? Coaching counts for something. And maybe we aren't including that as much as we should here as well.
No, that's 100% correct. But first we got to take a break.
I got to talk about Lady Jane's, where I get this fresh cut every single time.
Looking smooth, Flannel.
Me looking smooth as silk. And, you know, every time I go to that place, I go to any single stylist. They all do a great job on this wonderful hair of mine. Someday I'll have my hair looking like Jeff Iafrades, but that day is not today. But you can walk into any Lady Jane's for an award-winning haircut experience and automatically enter for your chance to win not one, but two vehicles of your choice, courtesy of Les Stanford Buick GMC of Ferndale. That's right, 2 cars, one for you and one for your wife, girlfriend, or best bud. Lady Jane's open 7 days a week. Walk in anytime. It's wicked awesome.
Love Woodward Sports? Love wearing clothes? Then you should be wearing Woodward Sports clothes. Check out our full line of merch at woodwardsports.com. Just click on Shop. We have all your favorite designs, like Dan Campbell kneecaps, Woodward Golf, and of course, our own logoed out merchandise. Men, women, infants, kids all love Woodward Sports. Impress your friends. Impress your boss. Impress your dog. Buy Woodward Sports merch today. the first paved road in America. Woodward Sports, the first sports network born in Detroit and made for Detroit.
Welcome back, Woodward. Big D Energy, Lukas Klotz, Sean Baligian, Spencer Raxer, Sam Flannel. It's 11:45. We got 317 people in the chat. We only got 58 likes. Hit that like button. Make sure you're commenting your thoughts throughout the stream. But we just kind of wrapped up on a thought. And Sean, you said you had something to say.
No, it's interesting because I like that you brought up the Jalen Carter thing. And while I wanted Jalen Carter, Flannel, I'll disagree with you. I wouldn't feel 100% better about this if he was here. Would I feel better? Sure. But the end result is still the same. This is a prove-it-to-me thing with the Lions this year in regards to the run defense. I think there's one thing that we have to take into consideration, and I love what Spencer said about bringing the extra guy in the box. This goes back to, as cheesy as it sounds, do I trust Brad Holmes?
Coaching madness.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do I trust the coaches in place right now? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So I don't give a damn what I think. And no offense, I don't give a damn what any of you think as well. Mm-hmm. This is what these guys prepare to go to battle with. And, it was funny, Lucas, you and I were talking before the show with Jeff. This is easily the most highly anticipated Lions season in all you kids' lifetime.
Yeah.
For the old people out there like me, this reminds me so much of heading into 92. And even though the Lions didn't have the success last year that they did in 91, but I still remember Pat Summerall. I think we're looking at the two teams from the 90s, John. About the Cowboys and the Lions, right? And you're sitting there going, I remember sitting there pinching myself going, is this real? Yeah. Well, as we know, the Cowboys go and win 3 Super Bowls and the Lions don't win another damn playoff game. That season was, looking back, almost over week 1 when they lost to a mad Bears team late in the game, and it was like the helium came out of the balloon. I don't think that's going to be the situation this year in that Thursday, man. Hasn't this team shown more fight than that? And so I hope the fan base doesn't get down, because I saw some people already talking, they're going to be 0-1. It's not the end of the year, man. It's not at all with this group.
And here's the thing with this rebuild, and why I said I'm completely confident in how it's being built, and it all goes back to that Penei Sewell pick, that this is going to be an organic rebuild. Pretty much every player on this roster, outside of some of the key secondary additions, they were there last year, and they were the 3-13 team. They have been there. They know what it's like to lose, and in the second half of the season, they know what it's like to learn how to win. So if they go 0-1, I'm not worried about it. I'm more worried about how they look week 2 against Seattle than week 1 against the Chiefs. If they go 0-2, I am still not worried, because what I still saw this team do in the second half of the season with Jared Goff, and now you're adding all this talent, and now they're still going to get a second boost of momentum when Jameson Williams comes back. They could start 3-4. Would I be worried? Yes. Would I be ready to sell the ship? Absolutely not, because this team is built to go a 17-game season.
I think a lot of it depends on what else is happening
100%,
around you.
There's got to be context.
And I think, if the NFC North is overall as bad as we think it's going to be, okay, if that's as bad as we think it's going to be, you could be 3 or 4 and still maybe even be in first place in this division.
The crucial thing is the last 3 weeks of the season, they go Minnesota, NFC North, Dallas, NFC, who I'm assuming they're going to be competing with for a playoff spot in the rankings wise, and then you go back to Minnesota. So this Lions team, in the last 3 weeks of the season, if they fall behind, they can catch right back up. And I think this is the year the Lions go out and they kill the Cowboys for everything that's happened in the previous years. I think they're going to dog walk the Vikings in every aspect of the game, maybe besides receiving, just because they have the second best receiver outside of Devontae Adams in the NFL right now. But that's all they have, in my opinion. Kirk Cousins, I don't care. I don't care what Kirk Cousins has to offer. And all the quarterbacks in the NFC North are worse than him right now. You can argue Justin Fields, but I want to see his arm more. I have no worries about this team going forward about it.
To me, it's insane when you think about it that they haven't been able to host a playoff game at Ford Field yet. And many of us were there for the last 2. I was there when they beat the Cowboys in 92. Unfortunately, I was there with the Sterling Sharp play. Absolutely, that should be the goal. Get back in the playoffs, win the division, host a playoff game. And because of this division, you can afford to have one of those starts. You can. I don't see anybody pulling what the Vikings did last year. And we all know, look, you are what your record indicates in the NFL. The Vikings had some lady luck along the way. They might be the most fraudulent 13-win team in the history of mankind. I think personally, I think we're downgrading them too much. I really do. No, I think let me tell you why we're downgrading them too much.
This.
The Lions are still here, and the Vikings are there. Don't get me wrong. But when I hear people talking about how the Vikings may be worse than the Packers, they might be worse than the Bears.
They are.
I'm not into that. I think the Bears are atrocious.
It's the defense. I think the Bears have gotten significantly better compared to where they were, and in my opinion, the Vikings have got significantly worse from where they were, especially on the defensive side of the ball. So now you take that and you look at the talent and how the game's managed, and like I say, the NFL today, Justin Fields, DJ Moore, I think that controls a lot of the clock. Kirk Cousins is going to be throwing interceptions. I think just the Bears are going to take that step ahead of the Vikings this year. And I saw Brady say in the chat right now, have you guys seen that quarterback show on Netflix?
Yeah.
He said, the new QB show has me loving Kirk Cousins. I could not disagree with that more. That show makes every thought I had about Kirk Cousins being one of the cringiest and just awkward quarterbacks, and a quarterback that I would not want on my team, just amplified even more. I get it. I'm not saying he's not a tough guy, but I mean, he was sitting alongside the fire. It's like, you're making millions of dollars, and he's living the average Joe life. And it's like, it's nothing wrong with that. But to say this is what makes me fall in love with Kirk Cousins, why?
He's a cool guy.
He's a cool guy. His wife dresses him.
So?
He can't even choose that. he looks like he's walking out of Kohl's every time he comes out of the closet.
Hey.
And I'm not talking about... I'm gonna keep going.
He's comfortable.
I have watched Kirk Cousins for a long time. Spencer, I'm sure you can agree, based on just the cap. He is what he is. He is the poster child of his... He is what he is. He is absolutely... And you know what? You're going to see him do some moments like this, and you're going to see a lot of moments like that where he looks absolutely lost. I'm going to say
usually
again,
in the big games.
Do I think that the Vikings are going to be a serious threat? No, but I don't think you go from 13-4 to 4-13 either.
No.
Even with the losses, and the way some people are talking, is you're going to see this, and I'm not so sure about that. You could say Devontae. I still think Justin. I think he's the best wide receiver in football. I'm not going to argue too much with you. Like I said, I think there's a pretty definitive, in my mind, top three. If you wanted to say Jamar, I'm not going to argue too much with you either. You know what I mean? So that's not worth arguing. But with that being said, it's almost like the AL Central in my mind. Like, seriously, it's almost like the AL Central, where it's like, if the Tigers could figure out just a little bit, all of a sudden you're going to find yourself right smack dab in the middle of it. And obviously the Lions are a different bunch with the talent that they have and the coaching that they have. So to your point, I agree with you. God forbid they start 3-4. Can you imagine all the people doing the same old Lions and, oh my gosh, it's 92 all over? It's not. I'm not. You know, the only time I'll say that is if at the end of the year, they roll in with a 7-10 record, then at that point in time, I have no choice but to sit back and say, I did it to myself. I did it again. That's the only way I'm going to say it.
If the things that would signify it, if we start 3-4 and we lose to Jordan Love and we lose to Justin Fields, then I'd be like, okay. The same issues are still here, but if we lose to Patrick Mahomes, we lose to the Seahawks, who are a great team. I'm trying to think, coming down the stretch, I know we play the Chargers. I'm not mad if we're losing the Chargers. It's not like a game where it's like the Lions should win that game, but are you really going to be upset if they don't? If they lose to the Raiders on Monday night, home, that's when I'll be like, okay. If we have a shaky record, I think that's when I'll have the judgment of where the Lions are at. I'm confident in them, but that'll be my big game against what should be a worse opponent. But you still have Devontae Adams, who knows how to beat up on the Lions. He's been in that situation before. If Jimmy Garoppolo's their quarterback, a much worse quarterback. That's my defining moment. Spenny Flannel, what's like the week where you're like, okay, this is where the Lions, to me, I can make or break it?
I think it's those divisional games, like you said. Like, it's if you go on the road and lose to the Chiefs, I'm not going to be upset. If you go on the road and you lose to the Chargers, I'm not going to be upset. Those aren't games that like you're supposed to win. It's so hard to win on the road in the NFL, especially when you're playing top tier talent like KC or LA. But if you're losing to the Bears at home, if you're losing to Jordan Love and the Packers, even in Lambeau, like that's when I would start to question it a little bit. But like Sean said, it's at the end of the year is what it boils down to. I don't care as much about who you win against or who you lose to. It's what that final record says. Because if you're 11-6, but you have losses to the Bears and the Packers, but you beat the Chiefs, like it doesn't really matter as much. It just matters what that record is at the end of the year.
And Steve-O, Flannel, before we get to you, Steve-O Baby says in the chat, you guys haven't won a playoff game in 31 years. You haven't won a division since 1993. It's the same old Lions. Yeah, well, Brad Holmes wasn't the GM of this team, and he hasn't been building where this. I'm not. We could shred that apart in so many ways.
I had this conversation with a very prominent former Detroit Lion who just recently came back into the fold. Until you change the narrative, you have to live by it. And it was funny because this was remember the Lions had the 2 long losing streaks on the road? There were 2. Enormous. What was it? 23 and 24. Yeah. And I had this conversation, and he was blowing his mind one day at the media. And he was a guy that I kind of talked to behind the scenes a little bit. And I did the, hey, can I have a word with you? And I put my arm around him. I said, dude, I get it. This is different. I get it. I'm buying in. Okay, great. It wasn't, as we all know. I said, but do you know the second you lost that first game on the road, you were part of this? Whether you like it or not. Whether we agree that you're going in the right direction. And I think it's safe to say that 99% of Lions fans, yours truly included, are like, this is legit. This is real. But we have to accept that. There's going to be somebody out there that says, until it happens, I'm going to keep saying this. And then they got to shut up when it happens.
Yeah, but it's just, we've already seen so much.
I know.
But we got to go to break. Spenny, Flannel, whichever one of you want to do the honors.
Yes, Guardian Alarm, of course. Speaking of defense, if the Lions want to have a defense as good as Guardian Alarm, you know they're going to be a division-winning team. Hell, they might get the #1 seed at that rate. And it's a new year. Let Guardian Alarm offer you customized solutions from real experts. Our professional technicians take the time to recommend security and automation solutions specific to your needs. 24/7 professional monitoring. Call us anytime, day or night, and know that a Guardian team member will stay on the phone as long as needed. Technology backed by people. Your safety and security deserves technology that's been proven to work and people who've been proven to care. Call them at 1-800-STAY-OUT. That's 1-800-STAY-OUT. Guardian Alarm, your local security experts.
Can't get enough Woodward Sports content? Head over to woodwardsports.com right now for up-to-date sports articles and great entertainment news. We have the best writers, bloggers, and coverage all at your fingertips. Head to woodwardsports.com right now to experience all Woodward Sports has to offer.
Since the dawn of moving people, Chevrolet has led the way. The world of transportation is changing. At Feldman Chevrolet, we are leading the charge forward. With every electric vehicle, every mile traveled, one Feldman at a time. The company that puts more Chevys on Michigan roads is now the #1 name for Chevy electric vehicles.
We are the network for Detroit by Detroiters. Welcome to the Woodward Sports Network.
Welcome back, Woodward Sports. Big D Energy, Lukas Klotz, Sean Baligian, Spencer Raxter, and Sam Flannel. We just kind of wrapped up talk about the Lions on the road, and we're about to get into some Pistons and Tigers talk here soon. But I want to talk first specifically about Jared Goff, because the criticism about Jared Goff, most of it comes on the road, and people were still worried about it this season. And yeah, here's a graphic. This is what he does at home. So Jared Goff led the NFL, obviously more than Patrick Mahomes, any quarterback in the NFL. Led him in home touchdown passes. But now if you kind of think about it and you look at the stats and you kind of, okay, what do these actually mean? It means he's probably not throwing that many touchdowns on the road.
6.
Threw 6 on the road in 2022. So are you concerned about that? More so, are you concerned about Jared Goff in 2023 now, with the weapons he has and the schedule that they have upcoming? Are you worried about Jared Goff on the road?
No, I'm not. Because, I'm going to say it again. this is going back to the conversation earlier. If a guy shows that he's different than he was, then what am I supposed to say? That he's still the same? No, you have to be honest. He is blossomed again. He has, and I say again because I think people forget how good he was early in his career. And he is put in positions of comfortability. And now that I think this line is going to be even better, look, we were talking about it earlier. There's still a ceiling for Sewell. So if we go with that logic, that ceiling is going to go even higher. So to me, they've got better protection around him. I think they've got better weapons around him. I'm going to worry about that when I have to worry about it. Again, if we're about midway through the season and it's night and day, it's Cousins-esque, good Kirk versus bad Kirk, then I'm going to worry about it. Right now, I'm not going to worry about that too soon.
Flannel?
So the Jared Goff on the road thing, that was, obviously the splits were not pretty when it comes to home versus road, but the good news is overall, Jared Goff had a very, very good year. I'm just looking at the road schedule right now. First off, the thing that's going to be working against him is that they have 9 road games, 8 home games, and they're home, and despite the Lions'
So he's got more to prove.
Sure, and the Lions' home schedule is, I would say, favorable-ish. I think it has 7-1 written all over it. But on the road, they're going to have to win some tough games. You got at Kansas City, even at Green Bay. Lambeau is always a tough place to play. At Baltimore, at the Chargers, at the Saints, at Dallas, and even your other divisional games, at Minnesota, at Chicago. Those are not going to be easy games. And Jared Goff, I think more than likely, at least in a couple of them, if they want to win, is going to have to rise up. At the very least, not turn the football over. But I would like to see a couple of standout road performances, not just game manager type performances. Do I think he's capable of it? Sure, but I'm a little bit worried given how tough at least part of the road schedule is.
Spenny?
Yeah, it's definitely something you got to look out for. You'll be hard pressed to find a quarterback who's better on the road than they are at home, and even the guys like
Joe Burrow,
Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, all those guys. If you're as good on the road as you are at home, you're an elite quarterback. That's what happens. If you have similar stats on the road and at home, you're probably a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. And we all can admit that Goff isn't there, but what he does, I'm not as worried about. I don't need to see the big touchdown numbers on the road. It's just, is he keeping you in the games? Because some of those road games last year, he only had 6 touchdowns, but how many times did a wide receiver get downed on the 5-yard line and then just gave the ball to Jamal Williams 3 times and he gets the touchdown? So I'm not as worried about the stats per se, but just if he's not, like Sean said, like turning the ball over, if he's keeping you in the games, that's all you can ask for.
Yeah, and I'm glad, because here's the thing. Originally, I was not worried at all, especially when you go back to like the New England game. He had no DeAndre Swift, and that was like the first, like we were like, oh, Swift is back, and then he got hurt, and so you have no Swift, so the whole dynamic of the offense changes there. Not to mention, none of the receivers nor the defense showed up. And then Carolina, you can't blame that on Jared Goff.
No.
And then against the Cowboys, Amon-Ra St. Brown, again, Swift is out at this point, and Amon-Ra St. Brown gets hurt after his first catch, so he's got no running back one and no wide receiver one anymore. So he's not, with a bad defense, that game's not going to go well for him. But you can argue, looking at it right now, the Lions' most difficult opponents, outside of, week 1 Chiefs. So I'll give Seattle, that's one of their more difficult opponents. They got them at home, but the Ravens, the Chargers, the Chiefs, obviously going to Lambeau. The Saints at away is going to be a tough game. A lot of their toughest opponents are on the road. So take away more so from Jared Goff. Are you worried about how they're going to perform on the road just based off their opponents that they have upcoming?
No, I'm not, because I think you touched on it earlier. I'm somebody that losing sucks, and I think this team came up together losing together.
Yep.
And at some point in time, we're not going out like this. And so the team that loses together finds a way to win together. And I think we saw that play itself out last year, honestly.
Sean with the bar.
I thought that we saw that. I thought that we saw that play itself out last year. It was a breath of fresh air around here because let's be honest, guys, even if you're old guys like me, these young pups have seen it 1,000 times. That point in the season where it just goes like this and it starts going down like this. And you see it and there's nothing you can do to stop it. Trust me, when I was on the network coverage during the Patricia years, you felt it. You walked in there. You walked into the facility. You walked into Ford Field, and you felt it. And you know what? We never got that last year. Never, at no point in time was that, okay, here it comes. It's
when
starting.
You got Matt
it's
Patricia,
starting.
oh my God.
But you know what? To me, it was also one of the. It was a Lion problem. It was something. Forget Matt Patricia. Forget Bob Quinn. It's something we saw far too often with this franchise. 2011. You guys are old enough to remember that. Onward and upward, right?
Yeah.
We made it to the playoffs, and we're the next step. That team was awful the next year.
Yeah.
And part of it was their head coach suddenly became the smartest man in the National Football League. And all you had to do was ask him. And he wasn't scared. And he threw challenge flags when he knew damn well it didn't count. It was going to hurt his team. And that's what I'm talking about. That spiral that not just the Lions. I don't want to make it Lions specific. When you're a losing team, it's very easy to go down the toilet, and they never did that last year.
I'm just thinking of I can't remember what game it was when Patricia was here, and it was a Monday night game, and he throws the challenge flag, and like ESPN's got the close up of. The image of Matt Patricia genuinely makes me want to vomit. It makes me like that almost. I say it all the time because I'm an Ohio State fan. C.J. Stroud and the Ryan Day has made me clock out Ohio State football for a little while. The Matt Patricia era almost made me clock out of Detroit Lions football for a while, and I'm happy that dude's gone. But the thing that I think is really going to be overlooked on the road is the impact of David Montgomery. Because, I mean, we saw how important Jamal Williams was for this offense. It's not because he broke off multiple big runs. I mean, he did, but not like – he's not a blazer. He kept him ahead of the chains, though. And I think David Montgomery, when we get into those, especially when you go to New Orleans, and they're going to be tried running the ball, especially when it's cold in Lambeau, and especially when we're in Chicago, David Montgomery is going to come to play. I think David Montgomery, outside of Amon-Ra St. Brown, is going to be the best offensive performer maybe this season, but especially on the road. And do you have any problem with that? Because me and Flannel get into it all the time about David Montgomery, and I'd love to hear your take on this too, Flannel. But I think David Montgomery is such an upgrade from Jamal Williams that stats don't show. The stats will show you otherwise, but I think if you really watch the players they are, this man's a demon. This man's a dog. David Montgomery's a dog.
I want to hear. Flannel, what's your issue with that?
Okay, so here's my underlying issue since, Sean, you weren't able to hear it. Obviously, when David Montgomery was first signed and Jamal Williams was out of town, I thought it was a fine signing. He is an upgrade. But the way people have been talking about David Montgomery and how disrespectful they've been to Jamal Williams on the way out, it rubbed me the wrong way a little bit. I mean, the reality of the situation is David Montgomery played 4 seasons in Chicago, only had 1,000 yards rushing once. He had 2 seasons in which he had less than 4 yards per carry. And how soon people forget. I understand that Jamal Williams played behind a good offensive line. I understand that he had a lot of 1-yard touchdowns. But he had over 1,060 yards and 17 touchdowns on the ground. And I just think this idea that David Montgomery is the greatest Chicago Bears running back since Walter Payton, and we got him, and Jamal Williams is some useless replacement level player tomato can that was shipped out of town. I think that's a little bit overblown. I think David Montgomery he's not an Atlantic Ocean upgrade over Jamal Williams. He's your pond in the backyard upgrade over.
What about a Lake Michigan? Throw Lake Michigan in there?
Absolutely not.
Oh my.
He's your pond in the backyard.
This is where I think we start getting on David Montgomery disrespect. But Spenny, what's your take on this?
I agree. Flannel, stop. like Jamal Williams is a career backup his entire career until he came to Detroit. He was brought here to be the backup, and then we know DeAndre Swift's made of glass and paper, so he couldn't get that RB1 usage that you want. Jamal Williams last year, behind the Lions offensive line, which is a top 3 offensive line in the NFL, on 262 carries, had that 1,066 yard. David Montgomery in 60 less carries behind the Bears offensive line, which was dog shit, had 800 yards. So you give David Montgomery an extra 60 carries that Jamal Williams had, he would have had more yards in a worse system, a way worse system, where they got 60 dudes in the box because their quarterback's the best running back on the team anyways. So they don't have to worry about throwing the ball. David Montgomery is astronomically better than Jamal Williams.
Not astronomically. Come on.
You got to do better than a pond, though. Can you do better than a pond?
Maybe.
I think you're just scarred from the DeAndre Swift. Like, you were so high in the Lions running back. And now you have one that can truly do something because he's proven that he has some star talent.
You know, here the one thing though, while you're trying to think of a better analogy than a pond,
maybe Lake St. Clair.
Okay, that's fine.
That's better than a pond.
You know, the one thing that we always have to remember, I mean, look, and this goes for you guys as well. Usage in the running back position as a whole has changed in the National Football League right in front of our eyes. I'm sorry, Lucas, you're going to think I'm an asshole. Am I? You're going to think I'm a jerk for saying this. You're going to think I'm a jerk for saying this. I don't use terms like RB1 and RB2 anymore. They're done. It's over. It's gone.
What do you use then?
You know what? How is this guy going to be used today? How is that guy going to be used today? Because there are going to be some games and circumstances that call for Gibbs. He's going to be the guy on that particular day. Yeah, exactly. He's going to be the guy on that particular day. And it might be him on this day, and it might be that guy on the other day. That's the way. I grew up in a league where, to this day, you could ask somebody in my age group, hey, who's the guy running the ball for the Seattle Seahawks? Kurt Warner. You remember off the top of your head. Who's getting the ball in Pittsburgh? Franco Harris. No. Who's getting the ball in Dallas? Oh, it's Tony Dorsett. Don't disrespect me. You still remember those guys to this day. And today in the National Football League, it's not like that. You know what? You might get a heavy dose of Flannel. Flannel's going to get 15, 17 touches in one game. And Lucas, that game you're going to get 4. And then the next game, you know what? It's going to be Spencer and Lucas. And that's the league today. Usage and how it applies against different teams. That's where we're at right now. So I don't worry about RB1, RB2. It's how do they fit in the puzzle in which the Lions want to attack teams.
Oh, yeah, I think you hit it spot on. But when we come back, we got some Pistons and Tigers talk. So everybody that's been hanging in there, make sure you drop a like. But first, we got a break. Spenny Flannel, whichever one you want to do the honors.
All right. And now I think you guys are maybe tapped into the Dispo stash if you think David Montgomery is exponentially better than Jamal Williams. But anywho, that's neither here nor there.
Flannel.
Hey, experience the true meaning of exceptional cannabis products with Dispo Dispensary. Indulge in the finest selection of cannabis curated with care. With over 10 locations, Dispo is never far away. Visit disposhops.com today and unlock a world of endless possibilities in the realm of cannabis. That is disposhops.com, your local cannabis plug.
Love Woodward Sports? Love wearing clothes? Then you should be wearing Woodward Sports clothes. Check out our full line of merch at woodwardsports.com. Just click on shop. We have all your favorite designs, like Dan Campbell kneecaps, Woodward golf, and of course, our own logoed out merchandise. Men, women, infants, kids, all love Woodward Sports. Impress your friends. Impress your boss. Impress your dog. Buy Woodward Sports merch today.
The Sports Marketing Agency would not be who we are without great community partners like Higuera Health and Carol Zuniga.
It's an awesome opportunity to partner with your organization. Higuera Health is a comprehensive behavioral health organization. We serve children through older adults with mental health, substance use, and developmental disabilities across Western Wayne counties, and really excited to now be in downriver communities as well. Give us a call at 734-458-4601.
The only sports network in Detroit that starts with a W. You know, because we win. Woodward Sports, Detroit's winning sports network.
Welcome back, Woodward Sports. Big D Energy, Lukas Klotz, Sean Baligian, Spencer Raxter, and Sam Flannel. Did you guys peep Marcus Sasser's 40-piece? Pistons have been balling lately, haven't they? At least in the Summer League. I mean, I know it's Summer League, and everybody's like, and you've heard it 1,000 times. I know it's Summer League. But it's something to be excited about with Detroit Pistons basketball.
I agree.
And especially, I'm thrilled with what I saw last night with Sasser, especially the way early on he was shooting. It kind of scared you, just because you're like, does this guy have it with the scoring ability? And he showed you last night with Noah Sarr-Thompson that this man can get some buckets.
Listen, this franchise has been in desperate need for some good news for a while now. I know I took a lot of crap a couple years ago because people were celebrating like the Pistons won the NBA title when they got the first pick of the draft. And I said, yeah, I'd rather have the first pick of the draft than not have it. And yeah, I'm glad that they're getting Cade, but you know what? I'm going to get really excited and pour beers on my head and make silly little videos that you kids can put on TikTok when we see them winning games, when we see Cade Cunningham turn into the guy that we expect him to. And you know what? I like seeing it. We needed it. Now, does this mean that it's going to translate in the regular season? Quite frankly, I think they're going to more than double their win total. And if you want to call me a slapdick, go right ahead. It wouldn't be the first time and it wouldn't be the last time. This is not a 17-win team,
No,
guys.
absolutely not.
Not in any way, shape, or form. I wouldn't be surprised at all if you see them in the upper 30s. Are they going to be ready to go to the playoff yet? Probably not. But
well, Lindsey Hunter thinks otherwise.
Well, and I'm not going to argue with Lindsey too much either. So a shout out to Lindsey. But no, listen. All jokes aside, guys. Yes. I want, instead of people talking about what the Pistons are going to do, because whether we want to believe it or not, we were all a little bit guilty about that for a while. We were all guilty about what the Pistons were going to do. Let them show what they're going to do, and so what? It's a dumb summer league. You know what? It's better to get excited over that which we can see than to keep talking about the same crap. To me, the Pistons have been a hamster on a wheel for over a decade.
Yeah.
They really have been. Look at the little hamster. Look at his legs. He's running so hard. They're not going anywhere, man. So, yes, show me something.
Spencer, what did you think of the last weekend, and more specifically your outlook on the Pistons?
I liked it. Obviously, it's good to see that young guy, Marcus Sasser. They moved up to draft him, so this is what they wanted out of him. He went out there, he's balling. I think he only missed one shot in the second half of that game, so it was impressive. But I'm with Sean. I think 30, 34 wins, 35 wins, somewhere around there. I think you bring in Cade Cunningham coming back from injury. He's going to be the healthiest he's been since high school because he's been dealing with these injuries even, when he was at Oklahoma State. You bring in Monty Williams. Just those two guys alone accounts for a 10 to 15 win jump from last year.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's what Lindsey said is just like, screw the draft picks and everything. Monty Williams alone is nearly going to double this team's win percentage.
Yeah.
And listen, Flannel, I want to get your take on this too, but who do you if the Pistons are going to double that win total, who's going to have to be that key second piece in order for them to get there, you think?
I would probably say Jaden Ivey at this point, and hopefully develop a backcourt that can someday rival Chauncey Billups and Rip Hamilton, although I believe Cade Cunningham will eventually be better than Chauncey Billups, but that's neither here nor there. I mean, the reality with the Detroit Pistons, and I kind of had a little bit of what some may consider a hot take on the morning show. Lucas, you already heard it, but for those of you who didn't, Sean and Spencer, or for anybody who wasn't watching the morning show, so the Pistons over-under is listed at 27.5. I am so confident that the Pistons will smash the over that if they don't, I would fire Troy Weaver right after the season on the spot. But my thinking in this is that it would have to train wreck and torpedo so badly for them to win 27 games or less. I mean, just with Cade Cunningham alone might get them to 27, and just like a slight leap from Jalen Duren and Jaden Ivey. And I'll tell you what, I really like what I saw, at least from Marcus Sasser last game, and the skill set that Asar Thompson has brought to the table even in the Summer League games. I know that it's just Summer League, but if he's just a guy who plays defense, can playmate, can rebound, and all that good stuff and fill up the stat sheet, even if his three-point shot isn't there right away, he's still going to be valuable. And I haven't even mentioned Monty Morris or Joe Harris and their three-point shooting.
I'm really excited to watch Monty this year.
Yes, he's the perfect backup point guard. So yes, I think the Pistons win 34 games, and I think if they win anything less than 27, Troy Weaver's got to go. But they're not going to. It would just have to take such a disaster for that to happen.
You know what's interesting? I was looking at some of the comments in the chat too, and it seems to me like most people are saying 30, 35. Some people are saying 35, 40, and that's exactly what we're talking about. Listen, it's not crazy to say they double the win total. Not I don't think I'm being a slapdick based on some of the things that all three of you guys brought up. Cade alone. Yeah, wait a second.
They did have him last year, and they won 17 games.
Exactly.
So how are we going to act like they're in a 17 game?
Cade Cunningham's back. Okay, cool. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and put an extra 8 or 9 in just based on that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So again, I get it, and this kind of reminds me. I can't tell you. All right, I'm going to tell you a quick story. 2008 Lions, right?
Okay.
The infamous year.
Going back down memory lane.
Everybody and their brother knew that the team was bad.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody and their brother knew, whether they want to admit it or not. We all knew. Did we think 0-16? No way in Hades. Lions had a pretty good exhibition season that year. And then all of a sudden, as fate would have it, then all of a sudden people started talking 9, 10, 11 wins, and you're going like this. If you wanted to make that argument, wait a second, aren't you guys doing the same thing? Okay, I can get that. But here's the difference. That 2008 Detroit Lion team was so devoid of talent other than Calvin Johnson. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and if you want to include the kicker as well.
Yeah.
The GOAT, Jason Hansen.
Really, I mean, they were so devoid of talent. You can't tell me when you look at this Piston roster that it's devoid of talent. Some of it's young talent, some of it's talent that we'll see how talented it is. And so that's the big difference. So I get it. If you want to be one of those people, Sean, you're a big practice, what you preach, show me type of thing. I get it. I totally get that. I'm fine. But this is where I also have to include, okay, Cade's going to be healthy, presumably. If he's not, all bets are off. Then we have to revisit this conversation when the time is prudent.
Spenny, what do you think? So we all agree the Pistons are going to take a great jump. Who's going to be the second? I mean, Cade's obviously going to be one. Who's going to be the two?
It's going to be Jaden Ivey.
Do you think it has to be?
It has to be Jaden Ivey. I talked about this on Heavyweights the other day. Like, we know, I think Oscar Thompson, like, what he can do for this team could be similar to what Andrew Wiggins did for the Warriors.
I like that.
Where he's a guy who can score. He's obviously going to be your best defender. He can do a lot of different things. He's just a better – I'm not saying he's Andrew Wiggins, but that type of role. Like, he's not going to be your number one scorer. He's going to be a guy that pops up, does this, goes here, goes there, does what he needs to do, and that's when he'll be at his best. So Ivy has to be the number two because he needs to be that secondary scoring option after Cade Cunningham. He's the guy that can go out there and give you buckets.
I agree with you.
He's the guy that can put up 30 on any given night.
Yeah.
Oscar Thompson, he doesn't really have that ceiling. His ceiling is more of an all-around game. Mm-hmm. That's like when the Warriors were at their best, when they were dynasty. It was Andre Iguodala was that. I want Iguodala. And that's where Oscar fits his role better. Andre Iguodala wasn't the number two option. Andre Iguodala wasn't the number three option. But he did everything that they needed him to do, and he helped them win games. So that's where Oscar would fit best in my eyes, while Jaden Ivey has to be your number two scoring option.
Sean, who do you think has to be the number two?
I agree with him. I thought well stated. Seriously, I mean, this is the situation where you want to see some of the young guys develop and everything, but I need that guy to get the buckets. That's the way that I got to do it.
And he can get them.
And he can do it. That's exactly it. So, again, using that is, I thought you nailed that, dude. Sometimes in this business, you know what you got to do? You got to shut up, and I gave a tip of the cap. I thought you nailed that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And another quick question. I know it's not on the prep or anything. Where do you think the Pistons will stack up in their division? You got the Cavs, Bucks, Pacers, Bulls.
All right, so will we all agree that the East is pretty good? We can all say that, right?
Yeah, it's pretty solid. I think but outside of the Bucks, I would say, and the Celtics, I would say it's pretty grouped after that. That makes sense. Where it's not bad, but it's not like there's a clear three.
I don't know if
talent-wise.
I don't know if we can say it's interchangeable yet, because I don't think the Pistons are up to that level yet where you could say I don't think they're a playoff team yet. Here I am out of one side of my mouth saying they're going to double their win total. I believe it, but I think they're just going to be on the outside looking in, and that's not a bad thing when you look at what they have now. Boy, that's a good question.
I'm looking at, do you think they could be better than the Pacers this year in the Bulls?
Yes.
Spenny Flannel?
Yes, both.
I don't know about the Pacers and the Bulls just yet. Just because the Bulls, I think they're retaining their entire core, which obviously isn't good enough for a championship. But if you've got DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, and Nikola Vucevic, and then with the Pacers, obviously Tyrese Halliburton, that's a big ask. I would say they're slightly below both.
What do you think, Spenny?
I think the Bulls are imploding this season.
I
think the Bulls are
they could be last place. They really could be last place.
They're going to have to ship off guys because it's not working. It's not going to work.
LaVine's going to be gone by the deadline.
Their team's going to implode. But the Pacers, I think the Pacers are just going to get better. I really like Halliburton, unless they trade Miles Turner. But they talk about trading Miles Turner every year for the past 6 years, and it hasn't happened.
Yeah,
so we'll see.
Facts. Do you think LaVine will be gone by the deadline?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Lonzo, he hasn't played in 2-3 seasons?
He's not playing next year.
He's not playing, so that's going to be 4. Is it too harsh to say he's done?
Probably.
He's done.
I feel bad for the guy, man.
Yeah, it's not his fault.
Yeah,
no. It's not his fault.
He was playing so well right before he left too.
But there's some Tigers hype, and we'll get back to that when we come out of break. But first,
Let me tell you guys about Big Boy, because Strawberry Fest is back at Big Boy. Try some of their classic breakfast menu items like the strawberry hotcakes or mouth-watering red velvet waffle. If you're not feeling breakfast, try the strawberry bacon chicken wrap or cool off with the refreshing summer splash salad. And don't forget to grab dessert, including the very delicious classic strawberry pie, deep-fried vanilla Oreos, or strawberry hot fudge cake, and more at Big Boy.
Love Woodward Sports? Love wearing clothes? Then you should be wearing Woodward Sports clothes. Check out our full line of merch at woodwardsports.com. Just click on Shop. We have all your favorite designs, like Dan Campbell kneecaps, Woodward Golf, and of course, our own logoed out merchandise. Men, women, infants, kids, all love Woodward Sports. Impress your friends. Impress your boss. Impress your dog. Buy Woodward Sports merch today. The only sports network in Detroit that starts with a W. You know, because we win. Woodward Sports, Detroit's winning sports network. Can't get enough Woodward Sports content? Head over to woodwardsports.com right now for up-to-date sports articles and great entertainment news. We have the best writers, bloggers, and coverage all at your fingertips. Head to woodwardsports.com right now to experience all Woodward Sports has to offer. We aren't quite sure if they consume more beer or sports. Either way, the heavyweights are here. Live on Woodward Sports, daily 5 to 7 p.m. We don't like to brag that we are the toughest sports network in Detroit. But we do have a guy named Darren McCarty on our side. Woodward Sports.
Your childhood may be over, but playtime is not. Outdoor Equipment Company is your source for outdoor power equipment, sales, service, and parts, carrying top brands such as Bad Boy, LS Tractor, Steel, and more. Servicing the Great Lakes region with locations in Metro Detroit and Greater Lansing. For more information, visit us at OutdoorEquipmentCo.com. Outdoor Equipment Company, your power equipment playground.
Welcome back to Woodward Sports. Big D Energy, Lukas Klotz, Sean Baligian, Spencer Raxer, Sam Flannel. And when Flannel was doing that, Sean was trying to do his best Kobe impression and he just failed about 30 times. So that's why that was going on.
Dude, you're a flagrant foul. You're a vicious. I'm not taking it to the hole on you again, that's for sure.
But yeah, I'm doing my Jalen Duren impression. But we just talked about basketball and football, and we're going to talk about something that is not my strength, so I'm going to turn it over to you guys heavy here. There's some hype around the Tigers, and I know that coming out of All-Star break a little bit. What do you think that means for the duration of the season, and where do you guys think the Tigers are going to end up when the season is all wrapped up?
All right, so I'll go first. All right, let's talk about this hype. They won a series.
They did.
Congratulations, they won a series. They lost a half game from before the weekend they started.
They still went back.
They're still 10 games under 500. Mm-hmm. Like, we are so desirous of a winner in this town. Whether we want to admit it or not, we have, in many ways, learned to embrace and celebrate not even mediocrity. I mean, we really have. That's where we're at right now. And I know hate or all that stuff. This isn't a good baseball team. There's a heck of a lot of work to be done. I want to try to put this in perspective for you. If you use, and not all series are 3-game series, okay? Not all. You got a 4-game series coming up against the Royals. You got a makeup game here. You have a couple of 2-game series. But let's just use the 3-game series as a starting point. If the Tigers just won their next 10 series, okay? You're talking about just being back at 500.
Oof.
Like, come on, man. Like, that's where we're at right now.
So there's really no hype around it.
That's where we're at right now. And I get it. The Central's bad. And,
really bad.
You know, so many of us are waiting for Tito to get the Guardians turned around, and that's not going to happen. I don't think it is now. I mean, Minnesota all of a sudden going on a 3-game win streak. You see, I mean, they put some distance between themselves and Cleveland, and obviously even picked up a half game on the Tigers. Better, yes. Ready? No. There's still a heck of a lot of work that needs to be done with this ball club.
I'm assuming you're agreeing based off everything, Spenny.
Yeah, they need to trade everybody in. Like you trade Lorenzen, trade Erod if you can get anything for him. Lang you can hold on to because you got a couple years of club control still with him. But I like what I saw over the weekend with obviously Karen Carpenter had 3 home runs. Like that was nice to watch. You had a couple. Badu is looking like he's back to the first year we had Badu and not last year Badu. So hopefully they can keep improving. But yeah, they don't have it. They're maybe going to have 2 guys on this team that hit 20 home runs.
They just don't have it in them.
No.
Flat out.
No, they do not have it in them.
You agree, or did you have some opposing statistics?
Well, the Tigers, and here's the sad part. Sean, you already mentioned it. They win their first series. They go to Seattle. They take 2 of 3. Any of us would take that any day of the week. The problem is the team that they're chasing, the Minnesota Twins, unlike when the Detroit Tigers play the Oakland A's, the Minnesota Twins make short work of them and sweep them. So the Tigers didn't even make up any ground. In fact, they lost ground. And I kind of made the point before even the All-Star break that it wouldn't surprise me if the Minnesota Twins actually separated themselves from the rest of the division and ended up winning 85 to 87 games if someone like Carlos Correa or Byron Buxton or Joey Gallo can heat up, because Bailey Ober and Sonny Gray are both very, very good starting pitchers. I think they might be in the running for the Cy Young, or at least be in somewhere in the voting. But I mean, with the Tigers, I guess it's just watch how the young guys go. I mean, Riley Green, I love what I've seen from him other than health. I love what I've seen so far from Tarek Skubal and Matt Manning. Hopefully they can be centerpieces of the future. Even a guy like Reese Olson has pitched very, very well when his name and number is called upon. I also want to see if Spencer Torkelson can kind of get out of this, get out of his, I would say, career-long funk. I mean, you've seen the power number. I will give him credit. You've seen the power numbers finally get to a point where they're better, not quite where they need to be, but better. But that average and that on-base percentage still leaves a lot to be desired. I don't think the Tigers are gonna go anywhere this year, but it would be nice to see the young guys develop, and some of them you've already seen are developing very nicely.
Riley Green is going to be something special, and there's still a lot of ceiling with him. Mm-hmm. He's fun to watch. I think the team is different with him in the lineup. But again, I think when you dig yourself a hole, to your point, Lucas, I think there are people that want to make excitement and want to make something, and I can want to make a lot of things, but if I don't have the ingredients for it, I'm going to have a big pile of shit there. And unfortunately, I think that's where we're at with the Tigers right now. There are a few nice ingredients, but, you know, when you're 10 games out of 500 and you're 6 games back, you already dug yourself quite the hole. So can you find a way? Let's put it this way. Do you think this team is capable of winning 4 or 5 series in a row, let alone 10 in a row, just to merely get back to 500? That's where I'm at. It's incredibly frustrating. I get it. The last thing any fan in Detroit wants to hear is the P word, patience. That's the last. Nobody wants to hear patience anymore.
It's all we've had, at least for me, all my lifetime. Born in 02. It's all I've had. Got a lot of patience.
For those of you that watched the show that I did with Joik here a couple years ago, that was a word that we used all the time. You have to be patient with Brad Holmes. 2021 isn't going to be pretty, guys. I hope you know that. He's playing the long game. We showed some patience. We saw what happened. Unfortunately, it was almost like starting over from scratch with Scott Harris and the Tigers. The Al Avila mistake was finally ended, and it's amazing to me how many people defended that guy up until literally the last year. It had me pulling hair out of my head for years. You're going to have to trust me when I say that, because there was nothing there. It wasn't like he was winning deals. It wasn't like there were all these wonderful prospects that were actually producing. But with that being said, there are pieces there. It's almost like the Pistons. It's going to take a little time. Let's see how some of these pieces develop.
It's not Al Avila anymore.
No.
You brought in Scott Harris, and he's got to dig his way out of there. He has to replant the seeds in the farm system that were just totally bare. Like, now you're actually getting some guys in there. I remember, I think it was like the first week or the second week of Scott Harris being announced as the GM. I follow this Tigers account. It's like Tigers international recruiting account. And one day there was 8 or 9 posts in a row of Tigers signed 16-year-old Cuban players, Tigers signed 15-year-old Dominican players. I was like,
what is going on?
This is what I want. This is what I want. You take shot, you sign 8, 9, 10 Dominican or Cuban players that are 16, and then in a couple of years, you get your Acuna, you get your Tatis, you get one of those guys, One of them's going to hit. And Al Avila did not win on anything. He did not win on prospects. He did not win on trades. He did not win on draft picks.
Was he a Matt Millen?
He was worse than Matt Millen. He was worse than Matt Millen.
I was making that argument, 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I was.
And this is the head of the Millen Man March saying that. Like, this is, you look at what he had when they had that all-star team. They had, Miggy in his prime, V-Mart, Upton, Kinsler, all of these, obviously the entire, you had, 4 Cy Young winners on the pitching staff. You didn't get shit for any of those guys. One of them is here. You traded the rest of them and got nothing for them.
Not a ting.
It's terrible. It is terrible.
And as Dan points out, I think there are a couple ones that take longer because you're talking about usually younger players across the board, MLB, NHL. You're talking about drafting straight 18-year-old kids. Mm-hmm. Now, I know there are some 18-year-olds that you draft into the NBA, but you're not talking across the board. I mean, you're talking usually across the board 18-year-old kids in their first draft year of eligibility. That in and of itself is no exact science. You're going to have some misses. And I've seen it broadcasting junior hockey, guys that you thought were going to be studs, and it never happened. And it goes the other way as well. So with that being said, but I'll also say this. I like Manning. I like him. I'm not going crazy about him like other people, but I like Manning. I really like Skubal. I really like Riley Green. There are pieces that I like. Riley Green's probably above some other guys.
Would you say that yet?
Close. I think when you have the arms, that is huge because I'm sorry, I don't care what anybody says. You can turn a lot of those young arms into proven things. And I was a guy, I love Dave Dombrowski, and I know a lot of people around here didn't love Dave Dombrowski, but you know why I love Dave Dombrowski? Because Dave Dombrowski would take a what you know over what you don't know more often than not. And I'm going to take my chances doing that. I am going to take my chances. Oh, this Spencer Raxter. Oh, 5 tools, and this guy can't miss. Okay, well, you know what? I got a perennial all-star sitting here in Lukas.
Yeah, he does.
Best of luck to you, young man.
He does.
But if I can, pull off a deal like that, doesn't mean you're always going to win.
Yeah.
It doesn't, because Spencer obviously turned into a 6-tool player. His tools were so great, they invented a new tool. But it doesn't mean you're always going to win. But I think when the Tigers have more knowns as opposed to what we think we know, then we'll be ready to have that conversation.
That's fair.
That's our knowns were signing Javi Baez to that crazy deal. Like, that's the kind of thing that you hate to see. Obviously, it makes sense. I like it. The same. I love Dombrowski. Dombrowski brought the best era of Tigers I've seen in my life. Obviously, I know the Tigers' heyday from the past, but in my lifetime, that was the best era of Tigers baseball. Was the Dombrowski years, and when Mr. I said, "Screw this." We're paying these guys. Because Neil says it all the time, and it's true. Baseball is the one sport that you can wake up and say, all right, we're going to have a good team. Because you can go out there and you can throw as much money at as many players as you want to bring them in here. And unfortunately, right now, they're not going to do that.
To your point, do you guys remember? I don't know who brought it up. Maybe it was you. Whoever brought up V-Mart, right? Do you remember the whole story about getting V-Mart? It's awesome. Dave Dombrowski said he was done shopping. He was done.
Yeah.
Dave Dombrowski announced to the media
what he wanted.
He was done shopping. Mr. Ilitch woke up one morning and said, what am I going to have for breakfast? I think I'd like some Eggs Benedict, maybe a side of bacon, and I'm going to get Dave Dombrowski on the phone and say, do whatever it takes to get Victor Martinez. That's the type of owner he was.
And a Hall of Famer on the side.
Right? You know what I mean? That's the type of owner he was. So, unfortunately, we're long removed from that, but there's some pieces.
So there's still some glimmer of light. It's not totally dark. It's going
to take some time.
Fair.
It's going to take some time.
For sure.
We'll take some time with this next break here, but then we're going to send it back. We're going to get some more Lions talk here. But first, got a word from Flannel Sam.
Absolutely, and about Swiss Insurance. And now that summer's here, it is important to make sure you are properly covered, whether it's a grad party or just a group of people over to enjoy the lake or pool. Your liability exposure increases significantly in summertime. Let the Swiss Insurance Group review your coverage and make sure you are protected from an unexpected loss. Check us out at SwissINS.com or call Mark today at 248-800-4177. Again, that is 248-800-4177. Swiss Insurance.
I love Love Woodward Sports? Love wearing clothes? Then you should be wearing Woodward Sports clothes. Check out our full line of merch at woodwardsports.com. Just click on shop. We have all your favorite designs, like Dan Campbell kneecaps, Woodward Golf, and of course, our own logoed out merchandise. Men, women, infants, kids all love Woodward Sports. Impress your friends. Impress your boss. Impress your dog. Buy Woodward Sports merch today.
Into any Lady Jane's Haircuts for Men for an award-winning haircut experience and automatically enter for your chance to win not one, but 2 vehicles of your choice, courtesy of Les Stanford Buick GMC of Ferndale. That's right, 2 cars, one for you, one for your wife, your girlfriend, or your best bud. Lady Jane's Haircuts for Men, open 7 days a week. Walk in anytime, sign in, sit down, watch your favorite team play, and before you know it, your hair will be game ready. Let one of our talented, award-winning stylists make you look handsome and clean. Lady Jane's Haircuts for Men. It's wicked awesome.
We aren't quite sure if they consume more beer or sports. Either way, the heavyweights are here. Live on Woodward Sports, daily 5 to 7 p.m.
Welcome back, Woodward Sports. Big D Energy. No Neil Ruller, Darren McCarter today, but I am joined by Sean Baligian, Spencer Raxter, and Sam Flannel. I am Lukas Klotz, and we just talked about the Tigers. They don't have a lot of pressure on them, assuming from the outside presence, but speaking of pressure, Detroit Lions are going to be under a lot of pressure this year. And which 2 Detroit Lions do you think are going to be under the most pressure to succeed this year? Because we'll give some options. You got Jared Goff, you got Jameson Williams, obviously with suspension, and I'll throw out Aiden Hutchinson just because of that second-year gap that we want him to cover. So if you had to pick between those 3, who do you think has the most pressure on them to take that next step or just succeed in general?
I don't think it's close. I think it's J-Mo. I really do.
You don't?
No, I don't think it's. And let me tell you why. It is a situation where whether we want to admit it or not, there are a lot of people that almost want this guy to fall on his face now.
Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah, there's definitely that.
Way too much has been made about some of the off-the-field stuff, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Look, the gambling stuff, I have no other way to say it. J-Mo, it's moronic. I mean, all you had to do was walk out the door, jump in your car. We all know how to get out of the Lions facility. You make a left, and you make a left, and then you can park your car like literally 50 yards away, and you're not on facility anymore to make those deals. Lesson learned, that's okay. But now, doesn't it seem like every other week there's this story about you have to question his maturity?
He's lighting off fireworks now.
He was seen at a Coney Island at 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. I go to Coney Islands any time of the day. But unfortunately, there's that's kind of hovering over him. Do I think it's fair? No, I don't. I don't think it's fair. But that's the way it is. So because of that, the best way to quiet that crap down is to come back from your suspension and be an integral part of the offense and show that big play capability that we saw only in flashes a couple times last year. So to me, I think that's an easy one.
Yeah, I'm going to have to disagree with you.
All right.
I think it has to fall on the shoulders of Jared Goff. I think any NFL quarterback in general carries the most pressure on any team because outside of the coach, if a team fails, they're looking at the quarterback. And we just drafted Hendon Hooker, the Detroit Lions, to replace Jared Goff. So I understand Jameson, from an individual standpoint, has a lot of pressure. But just from the Lions team perspective of pressure, Jared Goff has to go out there and ball this year because if he doesn't, it's his job. He wants to get paid again. He wants to stay in Detroit, I'm assuming. And they just said, hey, Jared, we want to keep you in Detroit, but we don't have to anymore. They have to hang on to Jameson Williams regardless if he balls out this year or next. He'll have that next season to prove himself. This, in my opinion, is Jared Goff's make-or-break year. I think he has everything to prove, and he has the ability to do it. But if he doesn't, I think the noise around J-Mo will be nothing compared if Jared Goff goes out there and we're 7-10, and all of it's going to be on Goff.
I like your logic, I do, and I'm not arguing with your logic too much. I think for me though, I'm looking at one, his proven that he can get it done, and again, we can have the debate if you think that Jared Goff is merely a top 10 guy, if whatever the case may be. I think the fact that he's proven that he can get it done maybe gives J-Mo the edge. Because, again, let me say this for the record. I don't think it's fair, some of the scrutiny that J-Mo's been under. Who gives a crap if the guy rolls to a Coney Island at 3 o'clock in the morning? Who gives a crap if he's watching fireworks? That's all the stuff, whether we want to admit it or not. Does that come into play? Absolutely. The guys are. Though? I know so, and let me tell you why. These guys can talk until they're blue in the face, that it's white noise to them. There was a particular quarterback in this town. You might remember him. I gave him his nickname, Joey Blue Skies. Joey Harrington became Joey Blue Skies, okay? Joey Harrington would tell every single person, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't listen to what people say. I don't read what people say. Well, it's really interesting. There were certain people in the media he never talked to. Well, why is that? Yeah. I wonder why that is. And then, of course, fast forward to the end of his career, then he was talking about how all the negativity brought him down. And it wasn't Joey's fault because he struggled as quarterback. It was all the negativity around him. So I wholeheartedly disagree that guys don't hear that stuff. They hear that stuff. How they react to it is a different story.
And I think that's the thing that I honestly do believe, because we talk about, especially with Alabama, how guys are kind of treated like they're on a silver platter, and how they kind of, just keep going, do you, and they really don't face that adversity. And that comes a lot around the Alabama players. And I think Jameson Williams, he's in a situation where, the 6-game suspension is uncontrollable, but how he bounces back is completely controllable. It's not like he lost any ability. This guy's going to come back. He's going to come back pissed off. And I think Jared Goff is going to benefit him very much well. But I'm with you. He has pressure, but if this team misses the playoffs, people are going to be looking at Jared Goff. And the other thing I want to touch on, I love how the media will cover Jameson Williams lighting off fireworks and go to Coney Island, but the man literally held a free football camp in the rain, and it wasn't like it was in the glamorous part of Detroit over the weekend, and hardly any media covered it. Jalen, who works with us a lot, did, so shout out to him. But Spenny, Flannel, who's under the most pressure for the Lions to succeed?
I'm with Sean. It's J-Mo 100%. Like, the way the people are already turning their back on him, throwing him under the bus, calling him Charles Rogers 2.0.
That shit pisses me off.
It's like, let the guy... Yeah, okay, again, I agree with Sean. The gambling thing, stupid. Inexcusable. It's stupid. Shouldn't have done it. But it's in the past. He's going to serve his time for it, and it'll be past that. And then he's going to come in, and once he catches a 60-yard touchdown the first week he's back, everybody who's talking shit is going to be like, oh, I love J-Mo. Yeah, it's right what the Lions need. Like, the kid's electric. The kid's special. Yeah, it sucks that we got to wait until week 7 to see it, but that was his fault. He manned up to it. He admitted it, and now he's moving on. So stop it with he's lighting off fireworks. Oh, he's at Coney Island. Oh, he's Charles Rogers. No, he's his own man. He made a stupid mistake. He's going to learn from it. He's going to be fine.
Flannel?
I am going to make it a clean sweep other than you, Lucas, and go with Jameson Williams as well. Here's the thing about Jameson Williams. Obviously, a lot like the fireworks stuff and the Coney Island stuff, that is a little bit overblown, but I feel like because people are maybe being overly critical of him for that, you've got people who will defend him like he's their son at this point. Like, every single thing he does is like, why are you picking on Jameson Williams? Well, here's another faction of people as well. Obviously, Jameson Williams has a ton of talent. He came into the NFL as an injured player. We weren't expecting much of him. He did play 6 games. And in those 6 games, he only did touch the ball twice. And I get it was a 41-yard touchdown and a 40-yard run, but still, he only touched the ball twice. And it's the people that are just so insistent that, oh, I'm not worried about anything. And then after that, he got a 6-game gambling suspension. And the people that are so insistent that, oh, I don't know what you guys are talking about. There's no worries. He's absolutely going to be great. There's those people, and those same people are acting like he already has done enough to validate why he was drafted. And I'm just like, I think that's lunacy. I think this year there's a ton of pressure on him to validate where they drafted him, because I'm a little bit worried that if, I don't know, he has the type of season where maybe he catches 22 passes for 410 and 6 touchdowns, that people are still going to be like, you see? No, he has to be a star. I think he has the ability, but I think people have lowered their expectations for Jameson Williams, and I don't get it.
I think he's going to be huge. I really do. I think the dude's going to ball out. I do.
So do I. But here's the thing, the context around that, and it's not just you, Flannel, but people act like Jameson Williams was supposed to play last year. If Jameson Williams didn't play last year, everybody would be A-okay with it because he was coming off a torn ACL. The fact of what he did at Alabama and how explosive and what he could do with the ball in his hands. He showed you when he really shouldn't even have showed you that last year. So now he's going to have a full season and 6+ games, or full off season and 6+ games, not only to get healthy, but he's going to mature, I think, more than he would have if nothing happened. I think that's what's going to be the approach to the game, and that going with Amon-Ra St. Brown, that's why guys like, when I say I'm not worried about Jameson Williams as far as the pressure, is because that noise is going to be there. But like Spenny said, the second when he comes back against the Baltimore Ravens and he scores a touchdown, that pressure is going to go chink. And now it's just relying on his ability to perform, which I honestly, watching the film at Alabama, I'm not worried about.
You know what's interesting? I'm going to go back to what you said, because I think what needs to be repeated here, and although I'm not changing, I think J-Mo is different. There are certain gigs in this town that are traditionally hard. And I think the goaltender for the Red Wings people are unduly unjust to you. I think the quarterback for the Detroit Lions is another position. If this team somehow, some way, okay, God forbid, and I want to make this clear, I don't think this is going to happen, okay?
Yeah, but you're just speaking
God forbid the Lions go 8-9 this year and miss the playoffs and finish second to I don't know who. But you know who's going to get the bulk of that blame.
It's going to be Goff.
It's going on Goff.
And
so that's why I say I get your point. I just think because of all the off-the-field bullshit, and that's exactly what it is, I worry more about J-Mo in that regard. But do I worry about J-Mo producing? Absolutely not. Monster.
Absolutely not.
He's going to ball out.
Well, we'll be right back. We're going to take a quick break. First, a local message from your local flannel.
Oh, no, it's me.
Okay, we're going Spenny now.
Yeah,
so
threw you the wrong boat. Let me tell you guys about Randy Wise and Tim. Make sure you come down and check out Randy Wise, because how would you like to feel like a famous athlete like Jim Harbaugh, Darren McCarty, or Braylon Edwards playing golf with average Joes? Thanks to Randy Wise Automotive and Woodward Sports, you will be able to do just that. It's the Randy Wise Celebrity Golf Tour. Make the wise choice. Pay attention to Woodward Sports for more info soon. Make sure you go out there. You can have fun. You can play with guys like Darren McCarty, Braylon Edwards, Jim Harbaugh, Tim McCollum. It is a star-studded event, so make sure you check out Randy Wise.
Love Woodward Sports? Love wearing clothes? Then you should be wearing Woodward Sports clothes. Check out our full line of merch at woodwardsports.com. Just click on shop. We have all your favorite designs, like Dan Campbell kneecaps, Woodward golf, and of course, our own logoed out merchandise. Men, women, infants, kids all love Woodward Sports. Impress your friends. Impress your boss. Impress your dog. Buy Woodward Sports merch today.
By now you know me, Christina Gennari, as the obvious choice in real estate. And you know my website, soldchristina.com, as your #1 resource for buying or selling your home. Myself, along with my amazing staff, pride ourselves on making your home buying and selling experience a relaxing and easy one. Come see why we are the obvious choice. Christina Gennari at soldchristina.com, the obvious choice in real estate.
The only sports network in Detroit that starts with a W. You know, because we win. Woodward Sports, Detroit's winning sports network.
Welcome back, Woodward Sports. Big D Energy. We only got 8 minutes, but appreciate you guys sticking with us if you have so far. Sean, there was this tweet that Doug Kleiman put out, and it's not his list, but it's a list of executives, scouts, etc., of their quarterback rankings. And if you look, it goes #1, as it should, Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers, Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Trevor Lawrence, who I like him there, Dak Prescott at 9, and then at 10, Matthew Stafford. And then inside those honorable mentions, they have Jared Goff. I don't know if this is in order, but I'm going to act like it is because I see Deshaun Watson above Kirk Cousins and Jared Goff. But this is disgusting, in my opinion. I want to get your context on it, but I'm one of those guys who I'll openly admit there is nothing I can stand outside. It has nothing to do with the man that he is. But I cannot stand Dak Prescott as an NFL quarterback. And the audacity people have to put Dak above Jared Goff consistently is what blows my mind. Because what are we basing this off of? Or if we're going to go off stats, that's cool. You just said you don't like turnover-friendly quarterbacks. That's Dak Prescott. I've seen Jared Goff in a Super Bowl. It makes no sense. If Jared Goff was drafted in 2016 where Dak Prescott was, he would have already taken them to an NFC Championship by now and maybe a Super Bowl. Because the thing that I always go back to about Dak Prescott, he doesn't know his role as the quarterback in the Dallas Cowboys offense, and he tries to outdo it. And I don't think he's the leader that people actually give him credit for. I think people overrate how much of a leader he is, because if you're a leader, you don't try to go and get the biggest quarterback's contract in NFL history, especially if you're a third-round pick and you haven't proven a damn thing yet. And you can say the same thing with Kirk Cousins, but they had him on the honorable mentions where he belongs, and Dak Prescott is not a top 10 quarterback. But that's my spiel on Dak. I want to take it to you now.
I think he's a good quarterback. I could see if you wanted to put him in that area of like 9, 10, 11, short. Do I think he's there? No. I don't think we put him there when Ryan and Maz and I had this conversation. I think we had Goff in the 9, 10 direction. Part of the problem with Dak as well is, remember, he's playing in Dallas, which is universally the most overhyped team, who hasn't had a true general manager in what? I mean, think back to it. They haven't had a true general manager since Jimmy Johnson. I mean, really, it's been 30. It's been 30 years, and he's never going to give that up because he wants more than anything to flash his rings to Jimmy Johnson. He's okay. He's all right.
Yeah. Just imagine what Dak Prescott would have been if we had, when the Detroit Lions were 3-13-1. Could you imagine if we had Dak Prescott for this rebuild? I would double gauge, look in the morning and contemplate my life every morning if I, as a Detroit Lions fan, had to look myself in the mirror and say, yep, Rain Dakota Prescott's my quarterback today. I would have no hope. Same thing with Kirk Cousins. At least I have some hope because I've seen Jared Goff play in a Super Bowl. I don't ever see Dak or Kirk in a Super Bowl. Spenny, Flannel, what do you guys think?
I agree with you. But I'm not like stamping the table for like Goff is so much better than Dak Prescott.
Goff is better than Dak.
It depends on the year, man. It's those like that like 9 to 14 level quarterback. You move them around, they're all interchangeable. The Goffs, the Daks, the Kirks, the Derek Carrs, the Tua, you can put Tua in there, whoever you think, those kind of guys, like, they'll have a good year and the one will push his way into the top 10. And then the next year, the next one will have a good year and he'll jump the other guys. They're all so similar and they're all very close skill-wise. So I don't. It's a year-by-year basis.
It is interchangeable. And I think so many of those names, one year you could make a better case for them being higher. Stafford belongs in that mix. Mm-hmm. I mean, there are some years that you could really make the argument that, all right, Matt, they're being a little disrespectful to Matthew. And there are some years you're going, he's not in the top 10 anymore. I don't know, when are they talking? You know what? Last year was one of those years. Stafford couldn't stay upright. Mm-hmm. I mean, that dude was killed. He was the walking wounded out there. So I don't know how legitimately right now today you could make that argument based on what we saw the previous year.
Yeah.
Flannel?
I agree with Spenny 100%. Lucas, I think this idea that you're excited about Jared Goff, but if Dak Prescott was your quarterback, you want to gouge your eyes out and your life.
I wouldn't trust it 100%. It's not that the talent is different, but the mentality, I think Jared Goff is a smarter quarterback, and I think he makes better decisions in big-time games. That's why I wake up a little bit more confident with Jared Goff than Dak Prescott.
Well, I mean, I think you overvalue things like, handing the ball off and letting the running back get for 4 yards and letting the clock run out than I do. That's the thing, because Jared Goff and Dak Prescott are, when you look at their numbers, they're pretty similar. And I know last year Dak Prescott was bad. The year before he had 37 touchdowns, 10 picks. He obviously imploded in the playoffs like he sometimes does. But even if you look at those numbers, Dak Prescott is a better playoff quarterback than Jared Goff. And speaking of that Super Bowl that Jared Goff was in, how do you look in that Super Bowl? How did he look in those first 2 playoff games? That entire playoff run, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions.
Here's the thing, though. I would much rather have Jared Goff for the simple fact of he didn't get in the way of that Rams offense and stop them from winning those games. The Cowboys offenses that Dak Prescott has had, you can say what you want, but they've been up there in talent with those Los Angeles Rams team, especially those days when they had nearly a Pro Bowl at every offensive lineman spot, Amari Cooper, Ezekiel Elliott. That team was buzzing, and the fact that they couldn't go farther than they did, it goes on the quarterback and coaching, in my opinion.
Ezekiel Elliott is another example of the shortened shelf life of the running back.
Yeah.
Though. I mean, he really is. I mean, this is why I don't talk 1 and 2s and things. I don't like it's like, no, you know what? Let's get this guy 14 touches, that guy 12, and the other game it might call for Flannel to be big a part of it. But look, Dak has had that around him. They just haven't produced. It's because of their general manager.
But all right, guys, I appreciate you. This is my first show on the
Great
Best
job,
for Beating.
Lucas.
I appreciate
Lucas.
all
You
you
were
guys.
awesome.
Made it very easy on me. Thank you to the people in the chat, dropping the like, supporting me. But that'll be all today from Woodward Sports and BDE. From me, Sean Baligian, Spencer Raxner, and Flannel Sam. We will see, probably Neil and D-Mac, but we'll catch you guys soon. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe.